Welcome back to Late Night at the Movies and the Late Night Chat Network, your first stop for pop culture talk. This is episode 53, High Fidelity. All right, welcome back, everybody, to Late Night at the Movies. And what an intro.
Great Monday morning. Hey, great Monday morning song, bro.
For real.
I'd come out with that song in the afternoon or nighttime like this.
I just thought it was fucking spark some conversation. You guys ready here? You ready to talk about this movie? But yeah, welcome back, everybody. Of course, I'm your host, Nico, and joining us today, we got JT.
Right up here.
And Max, who I thought wasn't going to make it out for this one, but here he is. And Julie's the one that ducked out here. You know, I got to stop teasing who's going to show up and who's not. Eh, Max?
Yeah, for real.
I'm starting to wonder if they have a whole game plan going like on that. Right?
So. Because Max complained about that before. He's like, don't say when I'm not going to be on the show.
Yeah, you guys make such a huge deal out of it. Like, what the hell? That's like, why me though? Like, you know, who knows? Maybe me and Julie are like the same person, bro. Like, we don't come here at the same time. Like,
honestly, the time that we've all been together on this show, I can fucking count on one hand. But that's why, you know, there's four of us, though. This is the beauty of the show, right? Yeah. But yes, this was my pick this week, guys, and that's High Fidelity. It's a film from the year 2000 that's actually celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, actually, if you look at that. I just kind of came across that while looking all the info up on this one to remind myself. This is a movie that I proudly own and that I've been a fan of for a long time. And this stars John Cusack, Jack Black. You got Lisa Bonet that's in this, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Tim Robbins, Joan Cusack. Of course, Laura. I can't forget about her. Her name's Iben Hegel. I'm not too familiar with her outside of this film, to be honest with you. But Lily Taylor's in this. A whole bunch of people. And
did you say Lisa Bonet?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Okay. Say her name again.
Fine, Lisa Bonet, of course, the most beautiful Lisa Bonet is in this. I can't forget about her. You're right. We should. She does deserve two mentions.
She deserves her own segment, actually. Like,
we'll get to her. We'll get to her. We'll get to her. Believe me, we'll get to her.
Is it Cusack's sister in this too, or cousin?
I said Joan Cusack. Yeah, Joan Cusack. I mentioned.
Yeah.
And this is based on a novel, I believe, of the same name. And the director is Stephen Frears, and writers are Nick Hornby, D.V. DeVincentis, and Steve Pink are the main writers on this. But yeah, it's based on a book. And Nick Hornby wrote the book, and then these other guys did the screenplay. It looked like also John Cusack was given the credit from working on the screenplay for this one as well, which I remember I saw him in the credits for that. That's right.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. So, you know,
producer, I think, as well.
That's right. Yeah. So this is a movie that I discovered actually probably not too long after it had come out, to be honest with you, because 2000 I would have been like 13, 14, and I probably watched this a few years after that. So this was during that same period of me kind of discovering and getting more into movies. And I think this is probably something that I had heard about around that time that I ended up checking out. And it's one that I've really enjoyed ever since. Honestly, I've watched this movie probably several times, maybe more, honestly. And when I picked it, I think I surprised you guys a little bit by my pick, at least Jay and Julie didn't really know too much about this one on the show there. But then after we kind of we did our last episode Any Given Sunday. If you guys missed that, definitely go back and check that out. That was me, Julie, and Jay. And more on that later from Max. Max recently watched it as well.
Yeah, I went back on it.
Wasn't able to join us, but make sure to tune in for Late Night Letterbox to hear what he has to say about that. But yeah, I think Jay even kind of like after we talked about us watching this, went and watched it. I feel like you've watched it like 5 times this past week. This is one that you watched.
Wow.
It's a totally different feeling. I don't know how you watched it so young, to be honest with you, because I probably couldn't do it. It wasn't in my wheelhouse, but maybe I just didn't know. I watched it when I was probably in my 20s, which really wasn't. I don't know. I don't think I really watched it at a good time. Maybe early 20s for me personally. But rewatching it as an adult, fuck, I hate saying that word. As an adult, yeah. It gives you a totally different perspective. Once you can go back and you've had, the same issues that he's having in this movie, kind of sense, in that sense, or everybody thinks about that. And we'll get more into it, but I mean, it really took me for a ride. I had to watch it more than once because there's so many relatable parts in this movie with just life in general as you grow older, right? So you could think about, you can go back. I don't know if you got that feeling this time around, Nico, but you can go back and think about, like a lot of stuff, man. You can really, really go down the rabbit hole with that one.
So, yeah. So I don't know what I initially thought about it when I was younger. It's kind of hard to remember now. I know it stuck with me. I know obviously there's certain aspects of this film that definitely stuck out to me at the time, Jack Black being one of them. And this is like, we're going to get into it. We're going to possibly throw out some top 5s later on, but spoiler, this is a top 5 Jack Black performance for me in this film.
Wow.
Honestly. For me,
that sounds about right. Yeah.
I just felt like at the time he stole the show. Like, I mean, he was kind of like, this was like a introduction to him, honestly, for me around that time. Even though he was in other things I probably had seen around that time. But that being said, like the reason I said it may have come as a surprise for me to pick this is that this is classified as a romantic comedy. I'm not huge on romantic comedies. I've watched a bunch of them, of course. We end up watching a bunch with the girlfriend as well. And there's some really good ones that have stuck with me over time as well that I also like. I particularly like stuff from like the 80s, like that kind of romantic comedies that existed around then, like a lot of the John Hughes stuff. Things like
Harry Met Sally and stuff like that.
Of course, you got John Cusack's Say Anything, which is another film that kind of like that he did. That's basically another romantic comedy of its time that Cameron Crowe directed, which was early for Cameron Crowe as well. To do Jerry Maguire and a bunch of other great movies, right? So this, like the main reason why I like this, though, the main takeaway, there's all kinds of things that you can take away from this film, honestly, and we're about to get into them. I feel like the bit that me and Jay had talked about it prior to this episode, the things that he was focusing on were maybe not the things that I initially focused on in this movie. And Jay, you mentioned the fact you don't know how, at least when it came to relationship stuff, like how you may have connected with it at a younger age. I don't know if it was really that stuff that so much that I connected with, though, but I think I really gravitated towards the whole aspect of these guys hanging out in a record store. Like, I like that kind of whole, like, there's a bunch of movies around this period of time, like in the 90s, this is 2000. This is kind of actually late in the game for this type of thing. But a lot of those like slacker type film type stuff, like of the 90s, like of guys just hanging around, making dick jokes and doing this kind of thing, like, right, like but like, and what I really liked about this is that it represents a subculture of a certain specific types of people that are, the film talks about people that are really obsessed with music, and the way that I connect with that, obviously at this time when I watched the movie, music was like that in like a big part of my life as well. But obviously as the years have gone on, now it's more so like things I'm really into of interest of mine are comics, and the comic store kind of subculture of comic fans and this kind of stuff is very relatable to some of the people that you see not only working in this movie, but also talking about music and records and rare records and doing this kind of stuff. And there's one line I want to highlight. I know this is jumping ahead for quotes, but it kind of really defines the movie for me in a lot of ways of why I really like this movie. So let me just look it up here. I have it written down here, but that's honestly what I've gravitated to initially about this movie. And music is not as big of a part of my life as it was then. It is now. That's half the reason why we do these podcasts, though, right? This is where we get to talk about movies, something else that I really love. And of course, music's still a part of my life as well. But like, I feel like comics now is kind of comics and movies. That's kind of overtaken like my interest in things that we talk about when we podcast about here on this channel, right? So like I really relate to that aspect of this film, and just guys hanging out talking about their interests, talking about the top fives, getting through the day, like, you know, being able to relate everything to music around them, honestly. Like, and then and on top of that, then you have a lot of great real life relationships type stuff in this film as well that you can take things away from, even if you relate it to previous relationships in your own life as well, right? Which I feel like, you know, I think some of the things that me and Jay were talking about were more so in that regard, like stuff like, you know, more of the relationship stuff of this film, right? So there's a lot you can really take away from this movie, honestly. And I feel like that's why it's kind of it's one of the more rewatchable films that sticks in my mind, that it's really just a pleasure to watch. Like I literally watched this the day after I talked about making it my pick when we did Any Given Sunday. I was just like, you know what? I'll throw that in. It's a nice runtime. It's less than 2 hours. I'll throw that on and check that out. And I watched it twice before doing the show here again, because I just enjoy the film that much. It is honestly just a very easy watch, right? So, but here's the line that really kind of, you know, brings it home for me in this film. A while back, Dick, Barry, and I agreed that what really matters is what you like, not what you are like. Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow, it's the fucking truth. And by this measure, it was one of the best dates of my fucking life. And this is when he's talking about when he went out with Lisa Bonet. But what he says there about how important these things are to him in his life, and how he gets and how it's just such a big part of his life, and it gets him through the day, and he gets him to be able to connect with people on a human level. That really speaks to me, man. That really speaks to me in this film. And honestly, upon revisiting it, that still sticks out to me. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this film still for me at the end of the day, is that aspect of it. And Jay, I think you caught on to it earlier today. You said, like, because we were talking about the way sometimes people are snobs about certain aspects of things during conversation. And these guys, there is a scene like that in this film where some guy comes in the store that they think is a dork, and they treat him as such. And then they kind of speak from like a moral high ground, like a superiority of like, I know more about music than you, and you're not one of us, and you're not part of the cool club. And you know what I mean? So like, I've seen that go down in comedy.
Yeah.
I've been that guy in certain conversations, unfortunately. You know, it's true. But like,
I probably have too, low-key.
We've talked about that. We've talked about the whole idea of people like looking down on film bros and people that are like highfalutin. Like, you know, I watch, you know, I only talk about the Criterion Channel movies and like shit like that. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of levels of fans and appreciation for stuff, right? So I think this film really highlights that, amongst obviously it not being even the main part of the story, but there's all this stuff about that peppered throughout the film, right? So I really, it kind of helps bring it back for me and kind of humanize these people for me a little bit. And in some people's eyes, I'm sure it makes these people seem like more like assholes than anything, right? But I like it. So okay, but go ahead, Jay. What else did you want to say about this? That's opening up. Whether or not your first, you said you told us your experience with the film so far. You have watched it before, but yeah, how'd you feel about this watch overall?
Well, this was amazing. This was awesome to watch at this. I think at this time in my life, it was perfect. I think for me, I feel like sometimes Nico throws these fucking films out there, not realizing, but it really gets me thinking in my head, because ultimately, just the way this fucking movie plays out, and this the storyline behind it, with the way we think as men, quite a few of us, and I know. And if anybody's gonna say different, then you can tell me afterwards in the chat when the show's aired. But or hit me up in the comments. But I'll tell you right now, this reminds me of being from grade 8 on. They literally brought me back down a fucking time capsule in my head that was fucking unbelievable. And I I didn't realize how much of a different perspective I had on it this time in that sense, right? Like, because I'm looking at it at a more mature, but I remember those exact moments, like when you don't remember when the boobs are, like when girls even existed, right? To be honest with you, it was always just the boys, you know, hanging out, playing sports. You didn't even look at the girls. All of a sudden, boom, they matured a little bit and you had a boner. And that's the way it worked, right? Like, it was just, I'm sorry, man. That's my only way of describing it in something that kind of makes sense in my head, right? So um I that being said, I didn't go in there to watch it for John Cusack. I didn't go in there to watch it for, I mean, it's nice to see them, 20 years, 25 years ago. I mean, they're a lot younger, a lot, different, young Jack Black when he's not looking like me, right? Because basically it's what he fucking looks like now.
Bro,
With
lay
the
off
beard.
Jack Black, bro. That fuck.
But I
Lay
mean,
off Jack Black.
no, I'm just saying 25 years ago, I mean, that was an awesome, like, where the fuck did he have that energy? Like, I mean,
Oh,
and
he's
just in that,
great, bro. He's great.
yeah.
This encompasses the best version of Jack Black, in my opinion. No, this is
You say
right.
I remember earlier you said, Nico, you said Jack Black steals the show in this movie.
he really does.
Bro, when doesn't Jack Black steal the show, bro?
But
And everything he's in, he steals the show. Come on, like he's phenomenal.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like his trajectory, though, like if you look from like the character that he plays in this film to today, I feel like almost at this point in time, like he's become almost like a meme of himself, if that makes any sense. Like the character of Jack Black is kind of like what he is and what he sells himself on now, not only on the internet, but even as the person he is in films now. Whereas at this right, but at this part of his life, like because this was like way earlier in his career, like you see the little like Jack Black mannerisms, even like when he starts singing and humming and doing stuff, you get to see him sing. You get to see him sing in this movie. Of course, he was already in
Tenacious D.
But again, as a young person watching this movie, I didn't know anything really about him in that sense. Like I didn't know that version of Jack Black. I didn't know, like this was so early. I feel like
I think he's super duper talented, man.
Oh, absolutely.
There are some actors who can kind of just skate by just being themselves. But like if you're so entertaining and so like magnetic, you can kind of get away with it, like for a whole career of it. And I think the earliest Jack Black movie I think I've seen like in the timeline of his career was in Enemy of the State. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
When he's just a computer guy at the desk trying to like find like Will Smith and Gene Hackman. He's like a very small role in that movie, right?
Scenes in it and like a bunch of like more like
comedic actors. And so there's this one scene in that movie when I guess Gene Hackman tells Will Smith, "Don't use a phone because they'll track us," and Will Smith uses a phone, and so then Jack Black is tracking them and he finds them. And you just see Jack Black's face as like the little raised eyebrow as he's like, that movie's not a comedy at all. But like when he found them, you see that Jack Black like raised eyebrow just in that little face is just like, I love him. Like he can do like just little facial expressions and he's just hilarious to me. Like he's just naturally so talented. Even as far recent as that, I don't know if Jay has seen it, but probably you saw it, Nico, the Super Mario Brothers movie where he's Bowser. Like he's so funny. He makes that movie.
The Bowser
music video
is amazing.
It's amazing. Like
he basically does like Garth Brooks kind of like with the paint falling down the piano. Like he basically is doing like a part, like it reminded me of that Garth Brooks video. Like clearly, I guess that's what he was kind of going for. But then he also was playing the piano like it was like an Elton John type of like approach. No, he's
amazing.
He is, but I feel like we've been getting so much of him and that character of himself lately.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit burnt out on Jack Black as of recently.
I'm not mad about that, you know? Like, you know how like Jim Carrey stopped being Jim Carrey and he started being like this philosopher and that's what I don't want to see. Like
Very
just
true.
be Jim Carrey, you know what I mean? Like
Very true. Very
so
true.
like that's what I like about Jack. He was Jack. He was always been Jack, you know?
Yeah, for lack of a better term, because like
nothing. I don't want to see Jack Black go on stage and be like, none of this matters anymore. Like, bro, like, leave me alone with this shit.
That Jim Carrey though needs to be studied. Like that is very interesting.
It's like a meme, bro.
I don't love it, but I can't get enough of it. I'm like, what is going on with
yeah,
this?
Yeah.
I love it.
What is more entertaining, like philosophical Jim Carrey or philosophical Matthew McConaughey? Like Lincoln commercial Matthew McConaughey.
The best is Jim Carrey doing the Lincoln commercial impersonation of McConaughey.
I haven't seen that, so now you make me want to go see
you're
that.
in for a treat, bro.
YouTube it. He did it on SNL. I drive a Lincoln.
Yeah.
Fuck that! You're making fun of my boy. I don't care if you're Canadian or want to.
Oh, they're both my boys. I love them both.
Jim Carrey too. Jim Carrey does a McConaughey impression. Have you not heard that?
No.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I almost want to just play it on the show right now. That's how good it is, but that'll sideline us. But yeah, how about you, Max? Like you said, you've seen this movie before. Like
so my first experience with this movie, like the first memory I have of this movie is this is like I was like maybe 8, 9 years old or so. My sister was watching it. I walked into the living room and she was watching it, and like I just caught a snippet of it. And I remember because John Cusack and Joan Cusack were in a scene or something, and my sister, one of my older sisters, massive John Cusack fan. So we always had like his movies, like his DVDs or his VHSs around. Like I remember we had like Serendipity and we had like Gross Point Blank and all these movies. Like so, John Cusack was always just like a major like player in terms of like what she was watching and stuff. But I never actually saw this movie front to end until like 10 years later. And the irony of the situation is, I think what inspired me to actually watch that movie was because I saw it on a Watch Mojo list, which is funny because that you feel like that site probably wouldn't have existed without this movie. Like this whole like top 5 and list article culture that is kind of like this movie inspired is influenced so much of like internet culture now, I feel like, or like, you know, like where all these people are just compiling these lists of random stuff, you know, like, and not even that, but like even like stuff like Letterboxd and stuff like where people can kind of just gather out and nerd out about their interests and their hobbies. Like, so that is also like another like element that this movie exposes. You know, it's so funny. I was curious like why you picked this movie. I mean, I know like the thing is like I can see the correlation between the characters in this movie and then your own personal life because you are involved in like a hobbyist kind of store. Like you do actually work like there. So I was wondering if that was the connection. And then I was also like seeing that, you know, they call it a romantic comedy and like Valentine's Day was around the corner. So did that have any influence in why you picked it? Was it like a Valentine's Day kind of thing too, or?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
You know, there's so many movies that we want to pick for this show, but as we all take our turns, you know that, you know, there's only so much you can actually pick at a time, right?
Absolutely, right.
For whatever reason, as I was organizing my movies recently, because I've added a bunch to the collection as of recently, I saw this there and I kind of started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? That would be an interesting pick. I feel like they wouldn't expect of me to pick. And I feel like there's exactly.
Actually, no. This doesn't surprise this pick doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, like because it is a good, very like rewatchable film, very enjoyable film. I was more so asking that because, even though I think maybe like the genre that this maybe movie you could like box in probably makes most sense as like a romantic comedy, but I feel like there's so much in this movie that isn't a romantic comedy that it kind of like you could kind of enjoy it even if you're not into those types of movies either. But I am me personally, I am a fan of romantic comedies. Like I'm actually like a sucker for them. Actually, like they're like really good like comfort movies. You know, I have no shame in admitting that too. I love me a good romantic comedy.
Sure.
with a nice glass of wine. No, I'm just kidding about the wine part. And a bubble bath. I'm just kidding.
Well,
The lube on my table.
well, I agree with you, Max. I didn't really consider this as such either. Like, that's not why I went out of my way to pick it. Like you said, it's funny because I did have that afterthought as well, how I picked it somewhat around the Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, I was curious. I was like, is that why
No,
Nico's picking it? Yeah.
no. So it's just a coincidence.
Nice.
But when I looked it up and I kind of was looking up information on the film, yeah, it had listed as a romantic comedy. And I was like, yeah, I guess it is, but I've never really considered it as such because I thought like they had such like like it had teeth, so to speak, like biting, like the humor in it, like kind of like was a little bit like there's some harsh kind of lines of discussion and things happening in this film. And not only that,
it's a dialogue.
It's a movie about a guy self-absorbed in himself, like realizing his failures in relationships. Like that's not the type of romantic comedy that you really would think is one that, and I have some commentary on that later on too. Actually, there's something that I realized about this watch now that we kind of got to look at it with this lens of discussing it, that I feel like I don't know if I've ever given any thought to in this movie. Honestly, there's one aspect about this film. Well, I'm like, this is an interesting thing that this movie did differently than I feel like any other film of the genre, if we're going to lump it in with the romantic comedies in that sense. Right. But it's not, and it's not only the things that it's about, because like you said, the whole framework of the whole top 5 kind of discussion throughout the film, that alone is an interesting thing about this film that you can kind of just roll with. But it's not only that, it's about, like you said, the subcultures of the, like the music, like the vinyl head type people, the people that are obsessed with this, what it means to them in one's life, right? How music relates to this character throughout his life, right? Which is, I know, something JT can really relate with, right? So it's got layers to it, man. And like,
for sure.
And then after that, it's like it goes back to like what you would expect it to be, where it's like, okay, well, this guy's got to get his life together at the end of the film finally, like, because guess what? He's just going to revisit the same old shit. It's going to keep happening to him, right? And that's what I really want to kind of discuss later on. It's
like just as much like a self-discovery movie kind of as it is about like falling in love or whatever.
Right.
So.
Right.
Nico should have been a therapist. I'm telling you right now. This is the stuff he watched, and grew up on. I'm telling you, man. I think I know where Nico might be going with that discussion later, but yeah.
I will say this one thing though. This is also like a very like enjoyable, like you're gonna have fun watching it. Like this is one of them like very, very rewatchable film, and I might have seen it like 2 times in its entirety before we did it for this one. And I normally don't watch a movie twice for these episodes, but I actually did for this time, and I'm happy I did, because the first time I watched it for this episode, I was like, ooh, like the ending of the pacing of it felt a little weird to me. I was like, oh, like is this kind of like
okay, let's have this conversation now, because you've actually really tapped into what I was going to say about it too, that I said I wanted to talk about later. We can talk about it now. Go ahead. What do you think?
I just thought like the like this is based on the first like watch for this. So that would have been like my 3rd time overall like watching this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, because I always enjoyed this movie. I was always a fan of this movie. But I was like, ooh, is the pacing felt like a little weird. I felt like the movie kind of dies after him and his girlfriend get back together, like officially get back together. And then I rewatched it last night, like the most recent watch, and I didn't have that same feeling. It's so weird. Like the pacing issue didn't feel as strong. I was like, oh, actually, no, this is very strong. Actually, this is like the overall arc of this movie, like the story arc. So it was so weird how contrasting opinions I had, like just based on an additional watch. It's so weird.
Yeah, so we could talk about it now. This was basically my hot take in a sense, but we can discuss it now. You hit the nail on the head essentially for the most part there. I never examined this movie in that same way as we are now, because we are actually sitting here discussing it, right? And the first time I watched this, out of the 2 times I watched it this week, that's exactly how I felt. And then the second time I watched it, I understood what was so good about that. So,
absolutely.
But you're right. It was the pacing specifically. And it is something I don't feel like I've ever felt about this movie, where it stuck out almost like in a bad way to me upon the first time I watched this. And then I said to myself, why they get back together, and then there's another 15 or 20 minutes after that. You know why? Because we are so preconditioned to every fucking romantic comedy.
Yeah,
When they get back together and they kiss, the credits roll.
absolutely.
And this movie, what they smartly do is they show you that they're like, oh yeah, we're back together now, things are great. And guess what? He falls into his own same trappings that
Yeah.
he always does. He starts falling for this columnist all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, listen, I need you to marry me because I don't know what else to do anymore. And like, clearly this guy's starting to fall for this other chick. He's writing her a playlist. And she's like, I'm sorry, but you're not really the safest bet right now because
Yeah,
right. And it's so
real.
smart and real. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, oh my God, it is so fucking true. This is what happens when the credits roll. We don't know if these people are going to end up with like
exactly.
forever. This could go the same route as it go ahead, Jay. Looks like you want to say that it's so smartly done though.
It is. It really is.
It's like that's fucking brilliant. At first, I'm like, wow, this is actually not that great of an ending as I remember. And then I watched it again. I'm like, no,
It's so crazy how we have the like identical like
that's
experience.
literally
As well.
yes. That was what I was getting at, and you hit on it. That's exactly what I was getting at. And I was like, I've never looked at it that way.
Even the final like frame of the movie, it's not like them laughing together on a couch or whatever. It's just him. He's making a mixtape for her. It's like this, you know.
Nice, it's a good ending.
No, it is a good ending. It is a good ending, but it's not like the stereotypical rom-com ending of yay, let's all like rock in a field of daisies or some shit together. You know what I mean? Like it's it's like it definitely changes the formula a bit, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Jay?
And I found it different because of the way at first it kind of confused me in a sense of it was bouncing around a bit for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and then I forgot that he's in the middle of a breakup as he's telling the breakups. So that's where it kind of I found that void that, you know, where I could have misunderstood it and mistaken it for something or another way it was going, right? But at the end, it's true. At the end, there's still things that like Nico said, if you're conditioned to watching a rom-com or if you're conditioned to watching any sort of love story or whatever, they just end it like that, like life's peaches and cream. Well, you know what? You've only been through a 2-week period of where you're broken up. There's issues. Those issues are still there.
Feelings there too.
Yeah, there's still those issues there. There's still those whatever. You know, you gotta. But it also showed that you're working as a team afterwards because they actually did. They worked as a team to, you know, as we see in the last scene there, where they get everybody going together. But you know, it kind of fell back into that, almost like where it kind of you would thinking it was starting off with, but we had just missed that part. You know, like where everything was probably peaches and cream. Just before they were, you know, like they found out in the beginning.
It starts with the breakup. Yeah. It starts with them leaving. Like that's
and then he wants to break. Yeah, then he wants breakup songs, and he talks about his breakups. Right. But then after he's making a mixtape about probably more lovey-dovey songs in that sense, right? Because he's making a mixtape of maybe their relationship, maybe their life, maybe their experiences. You look at it at a different perspective, right? Because there's so many ways to make mixtapes and different songs to add and put in
late night mixtapes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe we could like plug that in real fast, like in this since we're talking about
that's if you want to go sell drugs on the block.
Yeah, it's a different type of mixtape.
You can find love anywhere, right?
Yeah, but there's
the rock.
There's a plug for that though. Check out Late Night Mixtapes on the Late Night Chat Network, everyone. but
yeah, no. Yeah, that's where I see that part going. I mean, it was nice to add that extra 15 minutes in there, to be honest with you, because I think everybody thinks that. Every guy thinks that, whether they just, you know, are just getting over a breakup or working through a breakup. I think at the end, when you get back together, if you do get back together, there's always that fucking doubt for at least a few weeks in your fucking mind.
Well, right? It's so crazy how he just like falls right back into it. That it's like, oh, I remember you.
Because people don't change overnight, you know, like they have to kind of realize how dumb they're acting, you know. But
that's why it felt off, because they've sold us on this inauthenticity in these fucking movies of the relationships.
Yeah, very true.
These loves
supposed to last forever.
Right. And that's why it fell off. And I don't think I've ever felt that way about it. Of course, I knew at the end there's that fantastic scene with Jack Black singing at the end where he does Marvin Gaye, and he's shocked at how good of a singer he is and everything else. Like I that's always stuck in my mind at how great of an ending that part of the movie was. But everything leading up to that moment where he's just like, yep, and then we were back together, and then it was just, and he was like, what? Like, and then he's like, yeah, everything was great, and this and that.
But
And
this is where you look at it from a different perspective, Nico, is where you're looking at it from how they're working together as a team as opposed to not. She's working with him now in a sense of trying. Yeah, they have a little quick argument about what they're going to play, like if it's the DJ or whatever they were going to do at the end there. And it did come full circle. I think it shows that they're working together as a team like that. I feel like it worked for the movie, right?
It's not only that, they went off both their separate ways. They both ended up sleeping with somebody else during that period of time, and then they came back together.
More than others.
Well, no, she, unbeknownst to her, he never reveals that to her in the film, actually. I mean, for all we know, she doesn't know that he hooked up with Lisa Bonet. She did hook up with that neighbor of his. We do
Tim Robbins. Oh my God, that shit was hilarious.
Which is a hilarious cameo in this film.
So good.
Honestly, like the last person I would expect to be in this movie. Very fucking weird. I know him and Jack Black are friends. Maybe that's why that he was.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. But yeah, no, it was really well done, honestly, and it makes you think, that, like, yeah, it's not as simple as it all seems, or that it's portrayed in these films, because he was falling back into his old ways, right? Like, I just think it's hilarious that the one woman that gives him attention, of course, has to be a columnist for a rock column, and that's something that he always wanted to be. And so he's like, oh yeah, let me talk to this chick, and then, like, all of a sudden he gets infatuated with her a little bit. Next thing you know, he's making her a mixtape. So, like Jay said, it's actually really good writing. That I mean, obviously it's based on the book, so you can probably credit the book for this. But again, it takes a lot for a guy doing the movie to adapt it really well. So you can give credit to both of them, I guess, in that same sense. But for them to think of these moments that do feel like so real, like that it's ripped and plucked from real life, it really makes me wonder, because in that scene, she's like, yeah, you know what? She laughs in his face when he says, let's get married. She's like, yeah, no offense, but you don't really seem to be like a safe bet right now. You're making this girl a mixtape and everything else. And she laughs in his face. She's like, let's just see how things go. Like, we're back together and whatever else. And, we'll, and it seems like at that point, like you said, Jay, they're working together, and he's kind of working on his future, and she's helping him with that, right? Because he's felt like such a layabout this whole time, and a failure, right? And now he's kind of having some moderate success, and it actually looks like, there might be something on the horizon, and he was ready to throw that all away. This guy was literally ready to throw it all away just because some girl batted her eyes almost at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a really well written screenplay. And I just wanted to, like, sing John Cusack's praises for just like a moment. A lot of his acting is like him just looking into the camera and doing like monologues, narrating. That's really hard to pull off and be interesting and be entertaining and be like captivating. I don't think every actor can actually do that. And John Cusack pulls it off very well in this movie, where it's just him and a cigarette, and he has like a glass of beer, and he has to like tell these stories and tell these kind of like his, and the rhythm of his dialogue, the rhythm of how he's talking, it's very good writing, like the actual words that are being said. But the way he's actually delivering them, I thought was very, very good.
Yeah, and he's self-deprecating, and he's a bit of an asshole. And
he's that's another thing. Like
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I relate a lot to him.
He's a huge asshole, bro.
But if you look up the reviews for this movie, people are just like, an asshole gatekeeps for fucking 2 hours of the film. Literally, it said that in one of the Letterboxd reviews, where it was just like people were just looking at this film that way, where they're like, yeah, gee, I wonder why no woman can love this guy. He literally gatekeeps.
He's such a dick, bro. Like,
right.
I actually, like, I didn't make a top 5, but I was gonna throw, like, this is potentially a top 5 movie where, are we sure this guy deserves a happy ending? Like, he's such a fucking like,
it's up for discussion. I agree. It's
the one that kind of like got me off was the one where how he treats that movie critic ex-girlfriend of his.
Which one?
the one that became a movie critic, the one that he wanted to bang in college and she wouldn't let him. And
Penny, something.
I
Yeah,
forgot her name. And then they like revisit. He like rekindles. They meet up or whatever, and they go
Penny
for
Hardwick.
Penny Hardwick. They go for a drink or whatever, and he's like, "Why'd you break up with me?" And she's like, you're actually the one. You're the one who broke up with me, and then you're such a dick. You're such a." And then she she curses him out and storms off. Right?
That's brutal. Yeah.
She curses him out, storms off, and then he's like, "Oh my god." I broke up with her, and he's like so happy about it. He's like, check please. Like, he's such a dick. Like, he's such an asshole. Like,
I mean, if that scene happened today, I think that would have been examined a little bit differently. Honestly, that whole shit.
You know what though, I think that's actually a good thing though, because too often now is like, I don't know, people like, I guess I don't know what year it started, but people started like having this like
victim mentality,
like this insanely high moral compass that not even they are like true to or whatever. Like, they're not as like, you know what I mean, like just this insanely high standard. And so now every character has to be like these likable people. Like this movie, like there's actually a lot of stuff about John Cusack's character in this movie that is very likable, like how funny he is and how honest he is and stuff like that. But then it's also like he is also kind of a jerk too, and so I think that balance is good it makes for an interesting character.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
So
think that's
you need that. We need more movies about like jerks and assholes, and like not everyone is clean. Nobody is clean in real life. So that's what I like about this type of movie and the era that it came out in. Now people are like, oh, characters need to be likable, and like, fuck that shit. Like, you know,
that's why you get to bring it to Late Night Chat Network. You gotta have characters with me.
Yeah, you
got. Yeah. Oh my, this guy always turns it into like some shit about himself, bro. Just holy shit.
I know, he's the Bert Kreischer of this show.
JT, like, when you jerk off, is it just a mirror facing yourself? Like, that's what I'm starting to think,
like
bro.
That's in an American Psycho. That's what
he does the thing. He does the thing.
Which, by the way, is at JT's top 4 on the Letterboxd.
By the way, can I just say I am so jealous that I saw that and I was like, shit, I should have put that in my top 4.
Honestly, it is worthy of a top 4.
It is. It'll probably be in mine. Like, honestly, like top 4 is just like, you can never fit enough movies in the top 4. But
if you want to see me and JT talk about that movie, we've done that at Late Night.
Another plug.
List. There you go.
Okay, which movie did I'm Walking on Sunshine better? This or American Psycho? When he walks into his office, with the sunglasses.
I gotta say this. But I gotta say this. There's
Jack Black's performance with it. Yeah, just
yeah. That's hard to beat, actually.
Yeah.
It was just too. I don't know how he had that energy.
So I'll get into some of my just my bullet point likes here about the movie before we get into scenes and quotes here. I mentioned this already. It encompasses a subculture of comic fandom, but through music instead of comics and other pop culture. Well, there's some other pop culture stuff in here. Movies are mentioned, this kind of stuff. I mentioned how I like the top 5 method of how he analyzes his heartbreaks. This isn't obviously the first time it was done, but again, if we're gonna look at movies today and how certain people like big movies took that the fourth wall breaking aspect. I mean, even if you look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he does it in that.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but the fourth wall breaking is actually a very fun part about this film, right? I mean, if we nowadays a lot of people will point to Deadpool as an example of that, right? Because that's the character version.
Ferris Bueller,
yeah. But the movie was faced, and he even made that's what I mean. The meta commentary about that stuff. That's why he did a Ferris Bueller joke in Deadpool. If you remember at the end, he did the Ferris Bueller. Like, what are you guys still doing here? Go home, like, what I mean? Because it's the fourth wall breaking aspect of those films, right? Like it's
that whole fourth wall breaking. Not every movie can pull it off.
No, sometimes it's actually very corny too.
Narration as well, and it's not in this. This is perfect. It's as perfect as it comes.
Something else that they did in this movie too, which I thought was, I don't want to get cited as the first movie to do it, but we've seen so many other famous examples of people doing it since then. There's that scene where Ian there goes to the store and they show you 3 different
of them beating him up. Yeah.
Fake scenarios of what their reaction was. Does anybody remember when they did that in Superbad? You know what I mean? Like, there's other movies.
Yeah. I remember when they did that in Dumb and Dumber.
Right, where they show you like variations of what in the guy's mind actually occurred, right?
Do you remember Dumb and Dumber when she's like, "This is my boyfriend," and it shows Jim Carrey shooting him?
Yeah, but then he does all the karate scene, and he's like, he does all that crazy shit, and then he like eggs her and everything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been done. That's what I mean. This is not the first movie to do it, but they do. I do like that, like doing that kind of thing.
It's good curveballs, in the movie.
Yeah, I said, totally rewatchable movie, stood the test of time due to the relationship stuff and the record store thing. I think is very still relevant today. Vinyl is just as big as it's ever been. It's made
it made a comeback for sure.
Yeah,
physical media.
They even have a literal vinyl store day type event that people go to pick up vinyl now, right? Yeah, and that I mentioned about me enjoying it for the subculture of vinyl heads and what they expose you to in this movie. For example, the line about finding a rare Japanese vintage vinyl on the weekend when that guy wasn't working, that he went to another store for, and how he wanted to make a copy for John Cusack, his Dick, or his other coworker there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just really clever, because like I swear, me and people that like comics, where we work at the comic book store, we also go out and look for comics together when we're not working at the comic book store. So again, just very relatable, and something that I can kind of definitely understand what the guy's saying. Oh yeah, I found this rare, just because you're like, that's the reason why people work in those stores. You know what I mean? Like it's because you love what you guys are selling. It's not because of the pay or anything else, right? It's
right.
Hang out and talk about a hobby that you guys all have an interest in.
He even said that he like hired them for 3 days and they just show up every day or whatever. Like,
yeah, great line.
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
that was 40 years ago.
And then I mentioned, the moment Jack Black shows up in this movie and pops that tape in, he absolutely steals the show. His energy is unmatched. And I mentioned the fact, despite his career trajectory from this point, that basically that this is the version of Jack Black I love the most, is his kind of energy, that this Jack Black in this movie, right? Then I mentioned about some of the smoke shows in this movie. You forget how hot Catherine Zeta-Jones was back in the day too. When you see her in this movie, I mean, that she got with what's his name, Michael Douglas, right? I mean, that's
yeah. Forgot about that.
That was where that whole story originated about him going down on her. He thought he had throat cancer from it.
Oh my god, that's terrible, bro.
HPV, right? He tried to link it towards him going down on Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That's awful.
Michael Douglas, he's a coxman, man.
Coxman.
Oh, coxman.
Yeah, but
salute to him though. He pulled that.
She looks great in this movie. You forget because you haven't seen. She doesn't act as much. I feel like, at least I don't see her as much these days, and she looks great.
She still looks good. Yeah, she did kind of do that, but she still looks really good. I think the last thing I saw her was in that Wednesday show. I think.
Oh yeah, she was on that.
She was like the mom or something. She still looks good, bro. She still looks slamming.
Yeah, but that cost her a little bit. This didn't cost her anything. She was hot in this one. This was 25 years
younger, you know.
No, but it's 25 years. Catherine Zeta-Jones, man. You can't go wrong with this Catherine Zeta-Jones in this one. You can't. It's just like watching a young. Who can I think of when I say a young actress that's probably got too much Botox nowadays?
Oh man, I don't want to put the ladies on blast, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them, bro. There's a lot of them.
I mean, as we previously mentioned, I just put Lisa Bonet, oh my fucking god, on the notes here. I mean, she's one of the.
I forgot how hot she was too.
And a fun fact, I actually teased this on the last episode of Late Night. There's a her daughter,
Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz is on the show that they did one season of,
which I have not watched a single episode of. Have you?
It's so good. I watched it at the start of the pandemic, and it's like it only survived one season. Like it came out around the start of the pandemic, so I feel like it got buried and it got canceled. But it's actually a really, really good show.
Some people were saying it's better than this movie.
So it's the flip role reversal of it's a woman's perspective instead of a guy's perspective because of Zoe Kravitz. But again, the meta kind of commentary of casting her as the choice.
Yeah, it fits. I think
it's really, really interesting and it's really well done and it is a very good show. I need
to check it out.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
It's funny that you touch on that though, because I found that this one is a harder one to watch with let's say a girlfriend, because they don't understand. It was more of a male perspective in this one.
Sure.
That's
There
what
is
you're
a little,
fine.
there's a little true part. It's about us too, not paying attention to the women in this as well as trust me, I can relate in that sense where you think of yourself too much and you don't think of other people.
I mean, yeah, it
So
is very male centric. This guy's like banging other girls and stuff, and he's like cheating on his girlfriend. But then the second that like she tells
but that's
him
why
that he might have slept with Tim Robbins, he like
Oh, he's a
fucking goes
hypocrite.
berserk. And yeah, it's just like yeah, so it's like
yeah.
there's like
You
that
try to
hypocrisy that maybe girls are not gonna like, they're gonna see that and they're not gonna float with,
there is a trap that happens, when you do have when you're growing up, there is a trap. There's a cycle that I think everybody falls into, and as this movie went on. I mean, I'm not no by any means am I not a therapist, so don't take anything of what I'm saying, literally. But I'll be honest with you, there is that perspective, there is that whole
There is a
the man.
whole, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
there is
two
a
of
whole.
them or three of them.
And once they realize you're going for asking for $10 and then going for 30-50 grand or whatever the
Oh,
fuck.
that line is my favorite line of the movie. Oh my god.
How many times I remember doing that?
That was
Another kind of like there's a lot of weird meta things in here though too. Like another fun fact is
Bruce Springsteen.
the fourth, yeah, that's cool too. But the fourth girlfriend on the all-time breakup list that he had is actually Lily Taylor, who was in the movie Say Anything with him as his friend.
Oh yeah.
And of course, in Say Anything, Joan Cusack plays his sister in that movie, who's his actual real life sister. And in this movie, she's also in this movie, and she's the friend, the mutual friend of these two, right? His girlfriend. So it's just all these weird little things, like weird casting choices, like parallels that they've made, even going as far as casting Zoe Kravitz for the show that they did.
Yeah.
I don't know, many years later, 20 years later or whatever, right? Like
it makes sense though. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, Jace, did you start watching the show, Jay? And after
I did watch the show. I had watched the show, and that's where I was going with that whole thing.
Oh, I didn't know you did. I didn't know you watched the show before.
Before I've watched this movie, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. Yeah, I watched. But
Jay's up on all the shows.
There's differences between, because you said about the male and the female different, the way they went different with the TV series. This is what I'm saying. This is more of male oriented, where we can understand it more than females in that sense, and then the show was more where females or maybe more if everybody could understand it, but it was more based on the same lines as a female's perspective on the topic, right? As opposed to his perspective on the topic, right? So.
And the woman, the actress, I always forget her name, that played the Jack Black character in the show, is fantastic. She's the one that was in that movie Holdovers that she won an award for, or at least was nominated for it if she didn't win. She was the one with Paul Giamatti. She's in that. I have to look up her name. She's really good too. She plays the Jack Black character of the show, essentially, and she kind of brings that same energy as a character. Somehow, I remember when I first saw that show, and that was my introduction to that actress's work. And I was just like, man, I don't know about this. Is this person really going to capture Jack Black's energy? And I think she actually did. It was one of those shows where on paper, I'm like, this is going to be some stupid, like, you know what I mean? But it actually worked. Or as Max said about Shrinking, a liberal's wet dream. That's what I kind of like. I saw that show. I'm like, oh,
when you said that, you killed me.
But I'm like, look at this woke bullshit. It's the woman for their role. Gender changing.
I love that you remembered that. Oh my! I forgot I said that about that show.
It's your fucking generation that's always complaining, Max.
It made me laugh.
I'm surprised you don't say shit like that, GT. You're always the one complaining about everything. Like,
no, but it's one of those
things
to
get away with it.
It was one of those things though that I do love that show, but when you said that, I was like, yeah.
You're like, it's every point.
Yeah. Did you kind of agree with? Do you see where I'm coming from though? Like when I broke it down, yeah.
There's the gay characters, the black character, this one. Yeah, no,
his daughter's Asian.
They're checking all the boxes. They're checking all the boxes. They don't want to offend anybody.
Most movies and TV shows are doing that nowadays, and you've said this before to me, Max, about that most of them are doing that. And when I watched Shrinking, like you said, with you guys, it did end up feeling like like
Like
you
a
said it.
diversity checklist that you're,
You know
one by
what though?
one.
The thing I'll say about that though, there's a way to do it well, and there's a way that it's like so like
Yeah.
transparent.
You can tell when it's authentic and when it's forced.
Exactly.
And most of the time it feels forced because that's what they're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're so progressive, we're not racist, let's cast. It's just like, okay,
Right.
but then like where's the story? Like this shit makes no sense.
Right, which that's
So.
why I don't think that shows a good example of it. Like I see what you see, like when you said that, but I also think that's a good show. That in our
Shrinking? You're talking about Shrinking?
yeah, we like
Yeah.
it, but then also like I get why people would say that about certain stuff, but I also feel like the word now woke has lost all meaning. Like people are just
Yeah, it's got overplayed
yeah.
a little.
Like now, like people are just saying it like in a hateful way because there's like somebody like a diverse character and something. I'm like, really? That's not really what like right? Like it's not always that. Like
I
I'm
think
sorry.
the South Park, they did like the best. I think it was like the Panderverse special or
Yes.
whatever they did. I think they
Yeah.
Panderverse, like they kind of they hit the nail on the head the most. I think on
As
that
they always
topic.
do. As
They always do. They're geniuses. Those guys.
I would agree with what they were saying in that show. It's the pandering that's insulting. Like really,
it's like what they were saying was like, okay, the pandering is like it's so obvious and it's not creative, but complaining about it doesn't make you like any better, or doesn't make you like an intelligent person or whatever to point that out. So it's like people are both like wrong on both sides like of that.
Exactly. So the point I was trying to make was when they announced that show, I was like, oh man, don't do this. Don't make a show about this.
Yeah.
Change everything. I was one of those people. I was just hating on it for no reason. And then I watched it and it was delightful. I'm like, it's a great show.
I mean, Zoe Kravitz has been like one of my biggest like Hollywood crushes for a long time. So I would watch that regardless. But
yeah.
But I think I did also see the trailer, and I'm not. Don't quote me on this. Is she kind of like not that this would ruin, not that there's anything wrong with it, but isn't she also like an LGBT kind of character too?
She's bisexual in it.
Bisexual.
Yes.
Okay, so
one of the people on her breakup list is a woman, but it's
I
like
see.
One of those things where it was like a one-time thing, and then she's not into it anymore.
Hey, listen, that's like the reality of life. Like now, this is more exposed now, so I don't have like a problem with it or anything. But it's just like when you see all those like characteristics of a character, it's just like, wow, okay, is this like real, or is this like we're trying to appease people kind of thing? It's
no, I think the show handled it really well.
Okay, so that's good to know. I'm gonna check it out for sure. I'm gonna check it out. Sucks that they only did one season though.
Yeah,
that makes it like kind of like I'm only gonna watch something that got canceled. It's kind of, but whatever. I'll check it out.
It ends on a good note. They really didn't need to do more, to be honest with you.
Okay.
We have the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
fair, fair.
Really, yeah. So
and also the book too, if you want to read it. Have you read the book?
No.
Okay.
I never read the book. But then lastly, I just basically said, I had a bunch of comments about like the top 5 relationship stuff, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in the scenes here. I talked about my fun facts about all the meta stuff. And yeah, I kind of like at the end how he realizes that he almost kind of wants to give back and contribute back to something about the culture that he loves. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of like, I know it kind of seems weird when it happens in the film. Like, all of a sudden he has this idea for the top 5 records out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'll back these kids and everything else. But I think it was the natural, like, it honestly, it was a natural progression of like, what else is this guy going to do in this job that he has at this point in his life? Right. And he kind of was like in a rut.
So I really like that part of the movie where he thinks of that idea. It's
right. But I watched it and I was like, in a way, I kind of felt, like I understood it in the sense like, why do we do this? Because I like this, like talking about movies with my friends and doing, you know what I mean? Like, so like I understood it from that aspect while I was watching the movie, literally writing notes about talking about the movie for this show. You know what I mean? So I was just like, okay, here's a guy that saw an opportunity for something to kind of go be involved in something and something that he really loves. And he kind of just, shoot his shot there, right? Like in that moment, right? So, but yeah, that's pretty much all like the kind of like little pointers. Bullet points I wrote down of things likes about the film. And honestly, dislike was the ending thing, which I worked through after like the second, like we talked about, because that was my one big takeaway after watching it this first time was like the ending, the pacing. Like you said, I was like, this is so odd. I don't remember it like
Yeah,
this.
it's
And
so
then
weird.
after more re-examination, I like that you noticed that too, though. Both
Yeah,
these.
that is kind of a good coincidence, but it's kind of like showing it taught me that, like, from one watch to another you can have a totally different feeling and perspective. It really just takes another watch and you see a totally different light about it. And like, I always liked this movie. I never noticed that part, and then I did notice. I was like, okay, wow, this seems weird and flawed. And then I watched it, and it made me realize, okay, actually no, this, like, I would put this like as a yeah, I would say it's a perfect movie. Like, it's a classic. I think it's a classic. It's like it hits everything that it's trying to do and does
It's
it very
well
well. Like,
rounded.
of its genre, I think it's one of the strongest movies that it
It's
belongs
well
to.
rounded. Like,
Very, very well rounded. Yeah.
maybe
So,
that's why they have the records.
even like, let's say, like, even if people who are like romantic, I don't know if you call it a romantic comedy, but people who are like nervous about that term, I would still recommend this movie to those type of people. I think any kind of audience would like this.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Okay, so that being said, maybe we'll get into favorite scenes here for the movie. Because there's a bunch of them here I want to kind of highlight. Let me just bring this up here. Okay, so I guess I'll start off with one of mine here, and then we'll go around here, Jay, and then Max. I mean, honestly, like right from the start, I really like the whole conversation that they start to have in the store, like Jack Black coming in with the tape, of course. I think we already mentioned that at the top of the show. Like, obviously, that's a favorite scene. Like, the way he just kind of shot out of a cannon comes into the store and starts with the tape and going off on these rants. It kind of gives you the best introduction to these characters and who they are to this guy in his life, and how he's kind of like driven crazy by them. But he mentions the fact that he is one of these guys, right? So I really like that.
Dick, what's this?
It's the new Belle and Sebastian. Do you like it?
Holy shit! What the fuck is that?
It's the new Belle and Sebastian.
It's the record we've been listening to and enjoying, Barry.
Well, that's unfortunate because it sucks ass. Yours, I assume? Okay, buddy. I was just trying to cheer us up, so go ahead. Put on some old sad bastard music, see if I care.
I don't want to hear old sad bastard music, Barry. I just want something I can ignore.
Here's the thing. I made that tape special for today. My special Monday morning tape for you. Special!
It's fucking Monday afternoon. You should get out of bed earlier.
But the top 5 side ones, track 1 scene, I really enjoyed when they started getting into that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see how their brains work and how they start to dissect and go through songs that are memorized in their head, and to throw out to one another, and how like they get jealous about certain picks, or they refute certain picks, or they argue against certain ones. Like, I just to kind of see that happen in real time. Again, I just relate to that in a way because I've seen comic nerds nerd out about shit.
Yeah.
Too, right?
That's a really good one, because I even like because I even like my brain kind of works like that sometimes. When he was saying, remember Jack Black is critiquing Cusack about like, oh, you put in a new song amongst a bunch of old safe ones, like what a pussy or whatever. Like, yeah. I noticed that, like, even like if you look at like a Letterboxd top 4, I noticed so many people will put like 3 movies and then they'll just throw like 1 animated movie in there. It's just like, why is this like a trend? Like, why do so many people do that? It's just kind of like you notice like people are running like some kind of game sometimes when they do their like top whatever, their lists or whatever. So
Yeah, so they want to look like they're sophisticated. They're like, oh, I'm gonna
I'm
put it.
sophisticated, but I could also have a good time or some
Yeah,
shit.
exactly.
They'll put like The Godfather next to like Dumb and Dumber or some shit.
I'm gonna put in like the most like movie bro film picks ever, but then I'm gonna throw in like a silent film era kind of film. I'm gonna throw in a Fellini film here just to kind of throw people off the set.
Yeah, that no one's ever heard of.
Show,
Like
show them that I have taste. You know what I mean? Like I hate that shit. Like
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like it's so true though. I remember even you, Max. Like I remember like when we got into the discussion of like best movies because we were talking about making our list for the best year end our top 5 favorite movies show here for the show, and just like randomly without even like being kind of like asked about it, you're like, here's a list of my top 20 like last year, and you threw it in the chat, but you threw out a list of like top 20 movies or something that you had from the year that you had like about films
from the year before. Yeah.
You just had like in your notes. I love it. Like I love it. I was like, oh, that's fantastic.
That's something me and my friend do. We like trade lists, so because we always talk about this shit.
But there you go. That's what I mean. It's a real thing. Like
it is a
real thing. Like this is what drives us. Like we're sitting here talking about this movie because we love movies. Like that's why I like that. I like how they're able to and it's such like it's not a huge part of the movie. Like it is and it isn't. Like it's really about this guy and his relationships and everything else. But all these scenes really
best parts are like everyday life, right?
Yeah,
that occur during the main topics of what they're trying to get at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's why like Watch Mojo became such a huge brand because everyone does that in their own life anyways, but now it's like, oh, top 5 like video games, top 5. You can literally do a list about anything. Like,
you know what, I will push back on that comment only to say that maybe people will look up stuff like that occasionally to get ideas about stuff, but not everybody thinks about that stuff every day. I can tell you for a fact that not everybody acts like that every day.
Well, people who are into this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Like people who are into like hobbies and like, you know, like who geek out about shit like this, you know. So.
Right, because the casual, let's say, fan or whatever, certain stuff that you can't have these conversations with people, right? I've tried with some people and it fails, right? In that respect, where I want to have a juicy conversation about something and somebody will be like, yeah, no, I've never seen that. Like, oh, okay.
No, but even like a casual person would still be like, okay, let's say like, okay, you're a huge, like, I don't know, Taylor Swift fan. Okay, top 5 Taylor Swift songs. You could ask someone that, like, even if they're not into this, they don't go in some deep dive shit or whatever, but they can still, you know.
Yeah, that's how I feel about all the Kendrick fans that are apparently Kendrick fans now jumping on the bandwagon. I'm sorry, I had to throw it in there, Jay. I just think it's funny because there's people walking up to me talking about like Kendrick, like they've been listening to him his whole career, and they said they only started listening at the album Damn or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's funny to me in that respect.
Yo, is this a side kind of note thing? Because you know, I read the lyrics of Humble today, the Kendrick song Humble. Holy shit, these lyrics are so stupid. Like, and I'm a Kendrick fan, but like these lyrics are so bad. And
Humble's a good song though. I do like Humble a lot.
It's a good song, but I think it's like the beat and like the chorus is probably hooking. But I'm like, his actual verses, like he's talking about, oh, that pussy good. Why don't you why don't you put it on my taste buds? And then you see like Rap Genius, they're like explaining like, oh, he's saying taste bloods because he's from Compton and the Bloods is a gang in Compton, and
but it's the same type of stuff that we're talking about.
You know,
right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good, but
same stuff. It's the same subculture of enthusiasts that will be like that obsessed with something or somebody, and they'll deep dive into it and find meanings to like the same shit that we hate about certain stuff, we love about other stuff. Like
that's a good point. Yeah, I guess because Kendrick's music lends you to like overanalyze the shit out of it. And I just like it's actually kind of entertaining just to see like the straws that these people grasp when they break down his like stuff, like his fans is what I mean. Like when they talk about it. And listen, I'm a Kendrick fan. I'm not like trying to.
Same.
I'm not trying to get the Compton Bloods on my ass again. Like, but you know what I mean. Like, I like Kendrick. I like Kendrick's music a lot. But it's just holy shit. He says the most basic shit, and then people go like, no, actually, what he means is, and then they.
It's more
a fucking essay.
It's more a commentary on the fandom, if anything.
Yeah, it is. It's more about his fandom.
Yeah. But anyways, go ahead, Jay. What's you got?
You know, you want to roll off that note. I want to roll off this this other note about one scene that I like. One of the scenes that I like. There's quite a few scenes in this one that I like. But I'm gonna go for this one right away, just because it stands out kind of a way. I try to think of maybe like a comic enthusiast or a record enthusiast or whatever. But when the guy comes into this to the snob, the music snob that comes in and he wants
Oh
to buy
yeah.
and he says, and then Jack, sorry, what's his name? Barry. His name is Barry, right? Yeah, his name is Barry. In this movie, comes, grabs Jack Black, grabs the friggin' thing. Well, yeah, you know what? It's not for sale this week. It's not for sale. He says, well, you said that last week.
In a minute. Very nice, Rob. A sly declaration of new classic status slipped into a list of old safe ones. Very pussy.
Excuse me, I was
In a minute. Couldn't you be any more obvious than that, Rob? How about, I don't know, the Beatles? How about fucking Beethoven? Track 1, side 1 of the Fifth Symphony. How can someone who has no interest in music own a record store?
Hey, do you still have that beef our French import safe as milk?
Let's see. Ah, yes, here it is.
Yes. How much you want for it?
Oh no. You know what? I don't think I'm selling it this week. Maybe next week.
Oh no, you said that last week.
Did I? Yeah, well, I played.
You know, I don't have that record. I'll buy it for 40.
We're up.
So, now why would you sell it to me and not to him?
Because you're not a geek, Louis.
You guys are snobs.
No, we're not.
No, seriously, you're totally elitist. You feel like the unappreciated scholars, so you shit on the people who know less than you. No, which is everybody.
Yes.
It's just sad. That's all.
Right?
What about the scene when he like
Wait,
totally? Yeah.
He sends it, but then he just holds it in his hand. The guy leaves, right? Whatever. Because the best was he bent over and his ass crack was right there. That's Jack Black. You know something's coming out of his mouth when he starts doing stuff like that, where it kind of gets your attention first, and then he looks at it. Then he hands it over to Cusack. Because
there's another customer that's standing there with them, and he's like, "I'll give you $40 for that. I don't have that record." And he's like, "Yeah, here you go."
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, "Why would you sell it to him and not to me?" He's like, "Yeah, because you're not a loser or whatever."
Yeah, you're not a snob or.
Yeah. And that's when that
you
guy
only
called
listen
him
to
out.
it for one reason.
Oh, you're not a geek, yeah.
For the music. You basically listen to it for the music and not for the whole, just because you have to, because everybody's doing it, sort of thing, in a sense, right?
Yeah, I had it in my quotes, but since we're talking about the scene now, it says, why would you sell it to me and not to him? Because you're not a geek, Louis." And he's like, "You guys are snobs."
Yeah, but like Cusack was giving him like the finger like thing. Like when he did that, he was kind of like approving the fact that he just like shitted on that guy. And I'm like, bro, don't you want to make money though as a fucking business owner? Like what the hell?
There with his glasses on, just like this, hung over the table. He's like splits his dick in that scene. Like he's like not even paying attention to what's going on around him. Like, you know what I mean?
Those are the type of guys, I relate to that sort of collectible thing, because they look at people like me or whatever and that don't really know certain things. They're like, this fucking guy, what is he trying to talk to me
I'm
about?
sadly guilty of that. They're the casuals. They come through.
Casuals,
I'll be having a conversation with somebody, and some fucking geeky guy will come up and ask me about some stupid comic book thing. And I'm like, look at this fucking idiot, right? Like,
Those are those days when I go visit you.
Terrible.
I've seen it live in person with Nico, so I've been there, sitting there, watching him do it to somebody while he's trying to have a conversation with me.
You know what though? It's not good. I don't want to put that out there. This is why the comic book guy on Simpson exists, is because people had this idea that you're gonna go in there. No, and it's a problem because it actually scares people away from the hobby. That is the whole the terminology of gatekeeping, is that you don't want to let anybody in on this thing you think you hold so sacred, when you really should be allowing anybody who's interested in, right? Like it's so, but it's true. There's certain people's tastes that will offend you. You're just like, why does this guy likes this piece of shit music? You're like, what's wrong?
I was gonna ask you guys.
Hate myself with, right? Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you guys: would you guys consider the characters in these movies like hipsters?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, right? Okay, because I
By
was
today's
trying to.
That
by
time
today's
frame.
by today's standards, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
because
back then too, but then it was cooler then because like you're coming out
that's
of
what I was seeing.
an age of like grunge, like rock music, and like kind of like it was more like these slacker movies. That's the reason why these were popular, is because the culture was more like that now then than it is now. Or now we kind of look down on it because they're like, look at these fucking hipster douchebags, right? Like, you know,
Well,
like
yeah, and the stoners or whatever, like it falls along those same
I
sort of
think
lines.
because it was
Like,
more like a niche thing back then, maybe, and like I don't know, John Cusack, he just the way he is, his character is there is sort of like a coolness to him. So he's like one of the cooler.
personality
He's like a personality. Yeah, he's just a cool guy in general. So
on the earth.
he didn't kind of come. Yeah, exactly. So he didn't kind of come across as like a hipster, even though I guess he kind of is one in this movie.
yes,
But then like
80s.
then you go like you fast forward, and maybe I'm kind of like getting ahead when we get to like legacy and all that shit. Then you fast forward like years later, and you get movies like 500 Days of Summer with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is such a geek, and he's almost like a
yeah.
kind of like the same similar culture, maybe, or but not as cool.
You know what though? There'll be people that relate to these people no matter what time they come out, though. You know what I mean? There'll be certain people that relate to maybe not identify with them in the same way that you're saying, like they'll look at themselves and be like, oh, I'm like this guy, like in that sense. But some of the things that the character is going through, they'll relate to in the film, if not like identifying with the fact that they're a hipster. You know what I mean? Like so I think it's more that than anything. It's more of like an attitude and like and yeah, he is kind of cool in a way, but he's also a
He's
dick.
got the leather jacket. He's smoking cigarettes. He's drinking beer. He's banging broads. Like he's not like a geek. You know what I mean? Like he's not a fucking loser.
It's got to be late 80s, early 90s, late 80s, because
Yeah,
you still
it's like
got
when hipsters were still kind of cool hipsters. You know,
Right.
Like,
you know, rock like
smoking
that
side
is
places.
like rock like that in that sense, like, or like, you know, that like that lifestyle is kind of like dead now. It's not looked at.
yeah, that's true.
It's the culture has shifted is the issue. The culture's kind of moved on to other things now. If you go even earlier into the 90s, like there's other films that focus on punk rock stuff. There's also a lot of films that focus on goths, right? Like like there's all kinds of like that's, I mean, it's more about the subculture, like you said, type of elements.
They were more authentic, I feel like, in this era, and then like later when I think everyone kind of hopped on that trend, and everyone tried to be that, and they look super corny and not cool. Like once we got to like the 2010s era, like late 2000s era, that's when these people were just like, "Yo, you guys are such posers! Like, fuck out of here."
But
that's your generation telling us we're posers, bro.
Or there's somebody that watched this movie in the 2000s and they just wanted to tailor that. They
saw that and they're like, "I'm gonna be this,"
right,
instead of just being themselves, kind of, you know, like
right. So
but you can never be him because you know, Cusack's the man, bro. Fuck.
Right.
No, I dig his swag in this movie. He's
you know what? Sick. The ladies love him, man. And that when the younger Cusack, the ladies love him, man. Regardless, he's got that fire. Look at the hair, bro. Like,
one of so since we're talking about favorite scenes, one scene that I really like is when he leaves his apartment and he's like narrating and he's like, and then I go bang Mary LaSalle or whatever, like Lisa Bonet. And then it just talks about how he hooks up with her. Like,
he was so jazzed up about finding out that she didn't sleep with that Ian guy that he goes out and sleeps with her. Yeah.
No, but the way he says it, and then like the whole narration just kills me. He's just like, how does this guy? How do I do it? This guy, how do I become the most like eligible bachelor in my like zip code or whatever? Like,
the guy did it the right way. You know what he did? He went. You know why he did it? Because he could say that he did it first. That was the whole point of that. I'm pretty sure.
What do you mean he did it first?
She didn't sleep with him. She didn't sleep with what's his name? Tim Robbins' character. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But also, he kind of played the oh, my ex-girlfriend card with like Lisa Bonet, and they kind of had like a little conversation.
Have you never played the ex-girlfriend card?
No, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good card.
I think it's more what
I'm an awesome card.
Personally, I don't think it was like, I see what you're saying too about it being a competition in that sense too.
I'm just relating it to that, bro. I mean,
no, I think it was
males out there that are like that for sure.
But that's the whole point of that too, is that he's a huge fucking hypocrite. But the thing is, they don't sit there and tell you, look at this fucking guy, what a hypocrite. They make you determine that opinion on your own. Yeah, exactly. But
And for
that's
me
why.
to determine somebody else is a hypocrite, bro, is pretty crazy.
You could tell though they had a little
It's-
bit of like you could tell that him and the Lisa Bonet character had like a little bit of like sexual like flirting or
Tension?
tension.
Of
Yeah, a
course.
little tension there. So it was kind of a payoff in that sense too. So
Doesn't she look like Zoe Kravitz a little bit?
that's
Like
that's her mom.
oh, I
That's
didn't
her
hear you guys
mom.
say
You effing it.
the mom
Why do you
part. No,
why do you think
sorry.
I said that earlier? I
Zoe
said,
Kravitz was banging that, yo.
It just
bro,
trips me up because of the last name. Maybe that's why it threw me off. You
Lenny
said it,
Lenny
you
Kravitz. Lenny
guys
Kravitz.
didn't hear it.
Travis got with Lisa Bonet, man. Like that's the wonder they made such
Your boy Jason Momoa too.
yeah, that's right.
Who's
Oh,
he
is that why
dating
you
now?
guys
Who's he? Oh yeah, the Blink Twice chick, yo.
Adria Arjona. Oh my god, this guy.
Yeah, bro.
You're
Yeah,
gonna go
salute.
you're gonna swim to that island, bro.
Aquaman, fam.
Balboa.
Got the hose dripping wet, got to swim to it, right?
I was gonna say, just to piggyback off your scene as well, what you said. What I liked about that at the end of the hookup with Lisa Bonet, they walk out to the street the next morning. You're like, oh, which way you're going? She's like, this way. And he's like, well, you're going this way. He's like, well, I guess that's it.
And you
he's
never
like,
see her again.
no, but that's the thing. He says, oh yeah, I'll call you. And she laughs. She's like, yeah, okay. Like, she knew this was just like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
They just wanted to have that, and because they were both still talking about an ex of theirs. Like, remember he asked her about like what was his name again, what was her name again, and they're kind of like trying to get over something, right? But she also just looked at it, and she mentioned that she looks at sex not the same way as other people do. She was just kind of just trying to bang that night, right? Like,
Yeah.
which again,
but also she went to the record store, so maybe she was in the market too. You know what I mean? Like she was digging the boy.
She wanted some, yeah. She seen his pretty face.
Another one of my favorite scenes is the scene where he describes how he's organizing his records autobiographically.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that made me think of you, bro.
Organizing
so much.
my comics, yeah, exactly.
Everything that you have there, not even just your comics,
No,
everything.
my
Just an
apartment has been
freak,
like
bro.
that at times, or you just walk out and it's just the whole living room just filled with short boxes of me organizing my comics.
Marie DeSalle's playing. You remember I told you about her today? I like her. She's kind of Sheryl Crow-ish, crossed with a post-Partridge Family, pre-LA Law, Susan Day kind of thing. But, black.
Yeah.
So, I just want to know if you wanted to come along. Barry thought so too, really. But I guess it looks as if you're reorganizing your records.
Yeah.
What is this, chronological?
No.
Not alphabetical.
Nope.
What?
Autobiographical.
No fucking way.
Yep. I can tell you how I got from Deep Purple to Howlin' Wolf in just 25 moves. And if I want to find the song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, I have to remember that I bought it for someone in the fall of 1983, pile, but didn't give it to them for personal reasons.
That sounds
Comforting.
yes.
It is.
And I love how like the guy looks over to him and he's like amazed. He's like, well, it's not alphabetical. It's not. It's true. And if you collect something like that, there's many ways to organize it. Like with comics, it's like, do you do alphabetical? Do you do it by publisher? Do you do it by author? Right. So like it's I had a lot of fun with that scene because I understood where the guy was coming from. But he's spiraling out so bad. He's literally like organizing these things from autobiographically. He's like, for me to remember when I bought this Fleetwood Mac record, I got to remember that I bought this in between this relationship.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's really, he's about to say like probably crazy or something. Guy's like comforting, right? He's like, yeah.
Bro, that scene stood out to me so much because I was hoping I was gonna leave that one because I wanted you to say it because I knew it reminded it just I think of you when I seen that scene. Like he's basically putting the music on that when it came out in his life, and like so he literally just to clean it off and put it all back, right? That's really all it was. It was just kill some time, right?
I'm sorry if I'm yelling too, by the way. It's just I get so jazzed up about those scenes, man. They're just fun. They're hilarious. I just like it's a great movie. Yeah.
Oh, I see how relatable that part is. Yeah.
What else, Jay? What do you got?
Bro, I can relate to the Tim Robbins and the Ian fight. Sorry, that Tim Robbins is Ian. Sorry, and and the fight that Cusack had there, when he was thinking of every possible scenario he can pull on that person right there. I think I've had that in my fucking mind at one point in my life, going through, all these things and how this movie plays out. But I've seen that possibility. But I'm usually the calm one that can stay to myself, and that's I'm pretty good that way. But a million things will go through my head, and that was just awesome. And the way they played it out, I think it was 5 different scenes, if I'm not mistaken, where they played it out perfectly. Yeah, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it was quick and it was to the point. Like, this is the possibility I could come out with, and the other one guy breaks his fucking teeth out with the fucking phone, and like
the fucking nerdiest one too that does that shit.
Yeah, he
the
grabs
fucking AC
air
unit.
conditioner. But I like how they shot it, because like the camera's down and it just shows the camera, like he just shows it like slamming down, like on the point of POV of the guy looking up, and then you just see like the AC just cover it. Like, it was awesome. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong too, with the Steven Seagal fucking
haircut
he's got rocking, bro. I mean, that kills me with that
he
character.
Probably would that character would probably beat his ass. I don't think he's winning that fight.
God. Yeah, but I mean, just Tim Robbins, the way he looked even in that scene too, like just with that fucking haircut. That hair came out, that killed me.
What about the scene when he's
hair at that one point?
What about the scene when he's picturing Tim Robbins banging his girl though, like with the Barry White song? And
bro, you've never had
doing the most like pornographic sex ever, like
he's having like tantric sex with her. Like he's like, yeah, he's like
having some next level, like
doing like yoga and banging her at the same time. Yeah, that's kind of what was going on there.
Some guru like level sex, like
yo, and he was just driving himself nuts in his head, right? Because he's picturing him sleeping with the guy upstairs while they were banging upstairs.
Yo, how many times in this movie was John Cusack like walking in the rain? Like I feel like they did that like
so I
3 or 4 times, bro.
I know.
Sad,
yeah, the best was after the funeral when he
that was my favorite one too.
Yeah.
No, he got action after that. I remember having one of those.
That was a nice scene.
I was gonna mention that as another really good scene, honestly, where again where she says she just wants to feel something, so she tells him to sleep with her in the car and they have sex, and it's kind of one of those like sad types of sexes almost in a way, where she's just like, like she said, she's just trying to get over the fact that she lost her father, but he's like trying to be there for her in the moment, right? And like but again, it just felt like so real. That is such a real situation that you don't really see depicted, because it's not a pretty situation, and it's not like, but it's a real switch situation that happens, right?
Yeah, that's a really good scene.
It's
I actually had something like that to me. That's why it brought back a lot of this movie's bringing back a lot of my childhood, which is a fucking trip, because it's basically from the beginning to the end. But I mean, I'm telling you right now, that scene really meant a lot to me. That you bring that up.
Now that I think about it, Max, it kind of reminds me of the Honora scene at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. That's a good callback for sure.
Looking at it from 2 different perspectives in a way, but not in the sense that they both are feeling really terrible at the time when they're having sex, and
they also need to feel loved, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole thing with the Nora, also like provide spoilers here, but there's a scene that's similar to that.
Yeah. That's a good callback for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
With her and Cusack, the way I looked at it was a love thing too, because they were in love, regardless. So it's something that she can relate to.
You could tell they never really got over each other.
She makes a joke about it. Oh, I knew I was wearing a skirt for some reason.
And I think the sweet thing,
five to that one.
I think the really sweet thing about this movie is that like this was his worst breakup, which makes him kind of go back and think about his other ones, because this one, he was trying to kind of play it cool in the beginning, where he's like, "You don't even make my top 5." Maybe that's a good scene, like the opening scene of the movie when they actually do. It actually opens up with them breaking up, the movie, right? And so he's like, "You don't even make my top 5, Laura. You hear that?" And then he later explains that he like threw in one of the names just to like not put her in the top 5.
Yeah.
But she was really, when you think about it, she was number 1, because
by the
this
end
is the reason why he goes on this memory lane trip, you know, this journey.
Right.
So
by the end of it, she does make the 5th slot, though. He says that.
yeah,
Congratulations, you made the 5th slot of my top 5 breakups.
worst breakup.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it goes without being said. Those scenes are all great too, where he's reanalyzing all.
Those are all great. Yeah, all great.
The one that I related to the most. I mean, this is probably gonna sound terrible too. It's honestly that Penny Hardwick. What was her name? Is that her name or Penny Hardwick?
Yeah, the college, the high school one or whatever.
Yeah, what's her name? Yeah, Penny Hardwick. It's that one because honestly, there was a relationship where I kind of moved on because the girl wasn't like, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And at that point in your life, you're like obsessed with having sex. You're kind of like, I need to kind of get this over with. And you know,
she wasn't putting out.
And she wasn't putting out. So he moved on. And in that moment, that's all he cared about. He didn't care about her feelings.
No.
He didn't care about how she felt about all this. Like when she goes to kiss him at the goodnight, he's like, what's the point? It's just it's not gonna lead to anything. And he walks off and I'm like, oh my God, I've done that. I feel like I've done that in the past. Like because at a certain
point, I think we've all.
Yeah, I just, but it really made me feel bad, like for her in that moment because I'm like, that's so terrible, right? Like it actually, like you said, it is a maturing thing in a way too, Jay. Like you said, you look at these.
I didn't look at it that way. I wouldn't have looked at it 20 years ago. Right?
Yeah, but like the worst thing about that is that he still feels the same way about her, like even when he became an adult, because the second he realizes that it was actually him who broke up with her, he kind of like throws her. He basically treated her like the same way he did when he was in high school, like she's a piece of meat or whatever. Like,
well, that's what she said. She gave it up for the next guy, and like I said, that would probably be treated differently today because of how much like they focus on that kind of stuff. But like the way that she describes that, she basically, it wasn't rape, but it might as well have been, because like I just
didn't want to do it
to have his way with me because I was so fucking tired of people pawing at me and like trying to get in my pants at that point. She's like, I would have had sex in college. She's like, what's wrong? Like, didn't want to have it when I was 16 with you. Didn't you understand that? I loved you, right? Like, it is such a sad fucking moment.
It is. That shit is heartbreaking.
You're right. Then he just glosses over it because
he treats it like shit.
It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I broke up with you. Yeah, this is fantastic.
He gets like a victory out of it, which is so fucked up.
It's so fucked up. Yeah, I like how they handled it still, though. It's great.
It's funny, though. It is kind of funny.
Yeah,
my mind still thinks like that. That's the fucking scary part. But then after you seeing it in a different perspective, like as an adult, like thinking, that's those things too, with those callback scenes after when he had to get reassurance for himself.
Yeah.
Right. Like really, you got to get reinsurance for yourself for what? Like that's you're just making yourself realizing that what you've done is not paid attention to the woman. Really, at the end of the day, and you've been worried too much about yourself.
And the other one I really related to, and you can let me know if you felt this way too, either of you, but it's the thing about putting a woman on a pedestal like he did with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah. He
was so infatuated with her. He saw her through her flaws. He didn't really see them.
Yeah.
And when he's he moved on with his life and he re-examined that relationship and got back together, like, and met up with her, he realized that she was full of shit all along. He's like, why did I like this woman so much? Like, he's kind of like, she
was hot.
Like, I get it, but like he had moved on, like he had matured in that sense where he's like, I don't even like this woman like that anymore, like, other than her being hot, because at that time he couldn't see past her like
beauty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the whole thing about putting them on a pedestal. Like,
I'm actually glad you brought that scene up because I really love that's like the good karma in the movie when he asks her why she broke up with him, and she just fucking kicks him in the dick. Like, oh, that guy was more glamorous and he was more adventurous. And you just see his face is like so pissed off.
Marco.
Yeah, it was me.
Marco.
Yeah.
The dreaded Marco. I like
That's
how
actually...
I was afraid that she was going to leave me for somebody way better than she did.
I questioned my skills as like a lover or whatever.
At work, right?
Oh, yeah, man. But that's what I mean. That's another, honestly, like, I feel like I've had that experience when sometimes you see somebody later on in your life and you're like, wow, I thought you were going to be like, you know what I mean? You were going to like go on and You know what I mean? Like, but then you see them and you're like, wow, you really didn't do much with your life, or like you're really a horrible person. I don't know why I didn't see that before, right? Like it's
See you for who you actually are, kind of thing.
yeah. Those are the things I related to the most. I mean, obviously they talk about like the discovering girls, like Jay said at the start of the whole like first love, like kiss on the school ground type shit. Of course, there's that part too, but those are the ones where I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I've had, if not my own experiences people have had, or like that were around me, that I really related to those. Like they again felt like they were real, like real life situations that they put in this movie.
Yeah.
So it's really good stuff.
Very well written movie.
Yeah, the last two that I had was one, I liked the top 5 dream job list that she finds in the apartment when she goes back, and then she kind of makes him realize that owning a record store would be on his list, because she's like, do you even want to be an architect, because it's number 5 on his list. And of course the other ones are like ones that at like specific years in the 60s of being a Rolling Stone columnist and all this shit. She's like, so if time and money and all this shit didn't matter, these would be your dream jobs. He's like, how about record store owners? Like, how about that? Would you rather do that than be an architect? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, there you go, number 5. She's like, record store owner. So you actually are doing something you should be proud of with your life. And then she kind of made him realize once again how much of a huge asshole he was being in this moment, and like the self-loathing. Like it was all like this type of shit where it's just like, get over yourself, dude. Like, so what? Like, you know what I mean? Like things didn't turn out the way it's how it is for lots of people, right? That's how it kind of like, but he's like, but she's like, you are doing something like that you love. Like you do own a record store. Like, why would you want to be an architect? Right? I like that. So that self-realization she tries to help him with there at the end of the movie. And then of course the compilation of the mixtape. It is deep. Yeah. And the compilation of the mixtape that talk about him, about making the perfect tape, right? Like I related that to a little bit in a sense too, because you know, I used to make like just CDs and stuff like that.
Used to. You still make mixtapes, you know?
Yeah. But that's,
do you have any advice on the perfect mixtape? Your own personal like rules on that?
Well, listen, I mean, there was a time early in my relationship with Christine, I suggested music to her, like, and that I thought she would like, that I was trying to suggest music to her that was actually sending out a message about ways that I felt about certain stuff. Yeah.
How to cook up some crack and how to direct the consumer, and right? Like, love song classics, right?
And crack commandments.
Oh my God. No, yeah, but remember that's when you had to record it actually on a fucking cassette. Like, well, not you, but I mean,
no, mine was a CD. Yeah,
burning CDs.
Even me, I remember growing up, I had to have it was a cassette player. It took a while before I actually got a CD player. You know, to make.
What about the scene where he like kind of proposes to her? I guess he proposes, and you guys like that one? That was
talked about that before. Yeah.
Oh, you did? You mentioned that one? Okay.
Well, at the ending, I had talked about it, like how that gets to that point, and then there's like 15 more minutes of the movie, right? The night Laura's daddy died, and dying is tough.
Yeah. Jack Black, he's so good.
Top 5 songs to play at a funeral.
Who even thinks of that shit? What the fuck? Oh, you'd have to put the Crossroads.
Yeah.
Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right?
All right, Jay, anything else
bone. Before
we move on to quotes?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Man.
All right, let's go on to quotes here. Favorite quotes. All right, I'll start us out. The way the movie starts. What came first, the music or the misery? Did I listen to music because I was miserable, or was I miserable because I listened to music?
You know what's so funny about that whole that whole passage, and then also that whole, like, you actually mentioned it very early on, the whole time when he says, you know, books, TV, books, films,
well, that's my
movies,
favorite quote. Yeah,
they matter, right, and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting how like your interests, like what you kind of are like really into, almost like shapes your personality in a sense, in a weird way. Because now I'm starting to think, like, had Rob been like a hip hop guy, like, would he have been a totally different person? Like, he probably have like, you know, 10 shorties that he got, you know what I mean? Like, and shit, like, you know what I mean? Like, he'd have like a couple baby mamas and shit, and who the fuck knows?
Lisa Bonet would definitely be a side ting.
It's kind of funny. It's just like, you know, like your music, your interest is like who you kind of are as a person. It's in a weird way, you know.
Yeah.
It's how
Jay?
you go about your daily life, music and all.
Yeah, it influences you. It gives you, it puts that energy, that attitude in you, you know, like how you approach life, kind of.
Well, when John Cusack, when Rob goes, when he says, you know, I can't fire these guys. I hired them 5 years ago. Sorry, I hired them to come in 3 days a week, and that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
No, he
You
said
know,
they started showing up every day. That was 5 years
every
ago.
day. That was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, yeah. That was fucking, because he hired them for 3 days a week, and they kept showing up every day.
Yeah. I think Jay mentioned it before, but I didn't write any of these quotes down, so you guys might have to help me out on that one. But when he's trying to touch Penny's breast, and then she keeps like pushing it away, and then he tries to like push his push his hand under her skirt, and he's like, it was like getting rejected for $1 and then asking for $50,000, 50,000 out.
Bro,
That's like one of the funniest lines. I like laughed out loud. And then another funny line.
So true, though. Don't you
It's
remember
so
when
true.
you were on their
Yeah.
boob? Okay, I'm gonna go for the grand total.
Yeah, you're a little ambitious there, you know, like a little.
That's when you
and
get
then, and then one yeah, like as if she was pushing that away, but she would have been okay with like you
going
reaching
for the
under her
grand
pants. Like just the logic of like a male's brain is so funny sometimes. And then one of the funny when I was on the second time that I rewatched this, I was just laughing my ass off when he finds he goes to Charlie's apartment and she's like making out with Marco or whatever through the window. And he's just yelling in the rain. He's like, Charlie, you fucking bitch. Let's talk it out. Don't you want to talk it out or something?
No, but you gotta love how Marco just emerges and like,
yeah, he just emerges. He's like, Charlie, you fucking bitch. Let's talk this out.
but I also think they did that though because of his role in Say Anything, where he's outside the window.
Yeah, with the boombox and shit. Yeah, the radio.
They tried to do some parallels between.
Yeah, this is almost like a evolution of that character,
Yes,
John Cusack's character in High Fidelity.
One of my favorite. I mean, we haven't been giving Jack Black a shine, but now with the quotes, we are here with Jack Black now. Right, there we go. Rob, I'm telling you this for your own good. That's the worst fucking sweater I've ever seen. That's a Cosby sweater. A Cosby sweater.
Oh, that was perfection.
Hasn't aged really well at all.
Cosby.
A Cosby sweater.
What about when Jack Black, when they're doing the whole like top fives, side one, he says the top five side ones, track ones or whatever. Yeah. And then Jack Black goes on like, couldn't you pick anything any more fucking obvious? How about fucking Beethoven or some shit?
It's fucking symphony. Yeah. Or when he goes to the bar, he's like, "Is that Peter fucking Frampton?"
Yeah.
The guy just like silently like nods his head. He's like, he goes in there. He's like, "I used to hate this song."
You know. What about when what's the other dude's name? Dick.
Yeah,
the bald dude's name. When he's describing Lisa Bonet, he's like, yeah, we're gonna go see Mary LaSalle. She's like a cross between Sheryl Crow and then he like lists like 50 different influences, and then she's like, you know, but she's black.
Yeah. He like there's like a long pause, and then he's like,
but you know, but black, right? She's like Sheryl Crow mixed with this, but you know, black.
Yeah.
Talking about like meta commentary like this movie has, I feel like Lisa Bonet's character, like Marie LaSalle or whatever, I feel like that was like a way of like naming her Lisa Bonet without naming her Lisa Bonet. It just sounds like such a fake like how to like Lisa Bonet's first name is like an English name and the last name is like some French thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I always just laughed at like the name Marie LaSalle. I just thought it was such a.
I never really gave that any thought, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it was like she's Lisa Bonet, but like, you know, not named Lisa Bonet.
Go ahead, Jay. You want to take another stab over there? You paying attention or what?
I never thought I'd say this, but I have to go to work. Can I go to work now?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I thought you were actually saying you were about to leave.
So when he's like, what you know, if I wanted to see that movie. If I haven't seen that movie yet, what would you think or whatever? That was a funny like little exchange. Yeah.
We mentioned it.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it earlier, but he's like, I'd feel bad for taking their money. Well, if it wasn't one of them.
Yeah,
Right?
if I wasn't one of them. Yeah.
Then there's holy shit. What the fuck is that? Well, that's unfortunate because it sucks ass when he talks about like the music that you're listening.
Oh,
It's like the most dreary, like depressing fucking music that he walks in on. And he's like, I just want something I can ignore. Okay. I don't care about this music. Right. And he's like, my special Monday morning tape. I thought it would spark a conversation. He starts like snapping. He's like, and then he mentions that song, Little Lucy Lou. I forgot what he said, like Little
Lulu.
yeah, or some. I forgot the name of the song, but then the other guy says, "Is it this bad?" He's like, "No, the Righteous Brothers." And he's like, "Oh," and he like looks down. He's like, "What's wrong with the Righteous Brothers?" It's like, "Fuck you!" Like,
Yeah.
so angry about it.
So angry.
Yeah.
Actually, one like I guess this is like favorite scene / favorite line is when he like reconnects with that Lily. What's her name? Lily Taylor. Like that misery that girl that he was like misery dating. But then when he gets back together with her and she tells him that she's like sick or whatever and stuff like that. And so when he like leaves her apartment, he's just walking out of her apartment and he's like looking at the camera and he's like, I could have wound up having sex just then or whatever. And she's like at the doorway too. It was just so funny. It's like when they can hear the narration and when they can't hear it that line is funny.
Jay?
I'll give you a Charlie scene when they were together and he asked her if why he said he wasn't gonna ask her, but then he asked her why they broke up. Right. And she's like, I fucking knew it. I knew it. That's all she kept going.
He's on that midlife crisis shit.
You're going through one of those, what does it all means?
Yeah.
She didn't care. She just wanted to fuck.
It makes a lot of sense that she would be the one that guys would call for. Like, that she would be the one that called. Because she's like, I just did that shit like 2 months ago with that Marco guy. Like,
I mean, like it's hard to say the dialogue in the quote, but every time he yelled at the girl through the window or through the door when he was fucking telling them off, those are classics, bro.
Whatever, like at the start.
Yeah, like when he's banging at the door.
I like when he yells at the start when she leaves at the start of the movie. He's like, "If you wanted to ruin my life, you should."
Oh, that's the best quote.
Got to me early.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was
to me earlier. I threw that to my girlfriend the other day. If you want to ruin my life, you should have got to me earlier.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good right now.
I'm already fucked up. Yeah. I like that. The best is when the guy comes in. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just want to buy my my daughter. I just called to say I love you, the single or whatever." And he's like, "Can I have it then?" He's like, "No, you can't."
Yeah.
Like, why not? Because it's sentimental, tacky crap. And he's like, "Oh, that's it. I'm leaving." He's like, "Oh, bye-bye." And then he leaves and he's like, "Why did you give that guy such a hard time?" He's like, he's like, because he has terrible taste. He's like, it wasn't even his bad taste. It was his daughter. Bye-bye. Like, he just like, get the fuck out of here. Also, like, he's rocking like a soul patch in this movie, Jack Black.
Oh, yeah, Jack Black, yeah.
This is what I've been catching on this movie. Like, the quotes came out when they should have at the right times. Like, there's funny ones that got thrown out there, but there was ones that were more meaningful. They came out at perfect times in this movie too.
Right. Yeah. No, it's just like we've been saying. It's just very well written, very well structured. Yeah, it's a great movie. So hot takes. I basically said it about the ending earlier. I don't know if anybody else has some hot takes on this film.
I said mine too. Is like Rob isn't a good guy, basically.
Yeah, that's a good one. I had that thought too. Jay?
It's just a dick overall. No, it's what it is. He's not putting anybody's feelings before himself. I know people are like that.
Do you guys have any top fives to bring to the show? It's not me.
I just made one.
Go ahead.
Like top five, not related to the movie, basically. Just general top. Yeah, top 5 hip hop beats, and I even said it in the group chat. Like, and Nico and Jay, you can, because I was just like, this movie, they talk about music and stuff, and like hip hop, I know is like dear to our hearts, like as a genre. So if you guys want to throw out yours too on the fly, if you haven't coordinated it, but so my personal top 5 hip hop beats are, I put number 5. I'm gonna put what's the name of the song? I even forgot the name of the song. We Gonna Make It by Jadakiss and Styles P by The Alchemist. Dun, 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 dun. That's one of my favorites. Another one that this one is like maybe this is like a beat. This one is like you're either gonna hate it or love this beat, and that's I know a lot of people find this beat annoying, but I'm crazy for it. Is Money Cash Hoes by Jay-Z by Swiss Beats. The one that has like it sounds like it's actually a video game sample, but it has like it's almost like you're dragging your hand across its keyboard and the drums on that shit. Crazy. Like the drums are crazy on that. Then number three, I gotta have Dr. Dre on there. And I was thinking about putting Still Dre, but I think my favorite Dre beat is actually Dope Man from NWA.
Okay.
To me, that shit is crazy. Like with the sample and the drums, that one is crazy. Number two is Eric B and Rakim, Paid in Full. I love that beat too, and especially the remix when they threw the Israeli singer on there too. It's like got a great groove to it. And then number one, it's not even a hip hop beat, but you can take it and rap over it, and many have. And it, like, all the greats have rapped over this, and you don't even have to do anything to it. You don't have to like put any extra drums on, but you obviously you can, and it'll accent it. Is The Big Payback by James Brown. Anytime someone raps over that instrumental, bro, it is fucking magic, bro. You know that song that I'm talking about? Dun, dun, dun. That one.
Top of my head, no.
That, go back and listen to that. And like so many Biggie has rapped over that. Nas. I know when they did the BET ciphers, DJ Premier would play the instrumental for that, and so you had Busta Rhymes and Ludacris and even Kendrick rapped over it, and it is like the perfect hit. I feel like that beat is like a rite of passage. Like every rapper should like rap on that like one time, just because it's so iconic. And actually, James Brown himself is credited for creating so much of the foundation for what would become hip hop, because I think they said that he was like maybe one of, if not the most sampled artist in hip hop history, like James Brown. So yeah, I'd have to go that number one, James Brown, The Big Payback.
I like it. Good list. That was a good list. No, I didn't give him enough thought to that one that you threw out there. I don't feel like giving that one on the fly, because I think I would have taken a really. I mean, there's lots of great.
There's so many. There's Dr. Dre, Still Dre. There's a Band from TV, another Swiss Beats beat that is fire by Nori. So yeah, like that. There's so many.
Yeah, I would have to have given that some more thought. I got a couple of top fives myself here though too.
Yeah, throw them out.
So because of my love of Jack Black in this film, top 5 Jack Black movies. All right, here we go. I gotta try to put it in some order here. Okay, coming in at number 5, I'm gonna put Orange County in here because he plays such a spaz in that movie too. The way that he acts, he's like the stoner brother in that movie. If anybody's ever seen that one before,
I've never even heard of that one.
It's not that popular of a movie, but Jack Black is again like the energy that he brings to his character in that film. I quite enjoy quite a lot. Like he's a huge stoner.
I'm gonna add that to the watch list.
Yeah, it's called Orange County, and it's like back from like I don't know, maybe like the 2000s or something. But I really, it's what's his name? Hanks' son is in it.
Chet Hanks?
Yeah, not Chet. The other one, Colin Hanks is in it.
Okay, I got excited for his.
Yeah,
I'm an admitted Chet Hanks fan. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, it came out in 2002, and it's got a pretty good cast. Jack Black, Colin Hanks, O'Hara's in it, John Lithgow, Chevy Chase. Like, there's some good people in it. I really enjoy that movie.
I'm adding this bit.
But again, the Jack Black part of it is my favorite in that movie, though. Coming in number 4, this would probably be a lot lower on a lot of people's lists, but it's probably only because I haven't seen it that many times comparison to everything else here. I probably put School of Rock.
Oh, that's number 1 for me.
Yeah, that's what I said. It would probably be number 1 for a lot of people, right? Coming in at number 3. Oh man, this is tough. I'm like, you know what? I know I just said how much I love him in this movie, but I don't even know if it would be number 1. It was when I was watching this, but I would probably maybe put High Fidelity in number 3, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I think I saw some interview. Someone was saying that this was actually the movie that brought him attention. Like this was his breakthrough. This role for him.
Yeah.
Jack Black. So
No, you know what? I might still put this in at number one. Here's my next two. It's gonna be Nacho Libre and Tropic Thunder. I
okay,
love like Tropic
Tropic Thunder is classic.
Yeah, and
I
Nacho.
never saw Nacho Libre.
Oh, it's
I
fucking.
missed out on that one.
It's fucking hilarious, but some people would find it really stupid. But I think it's fucking
Yeah.
hilarious. So I'd probably go
Padre or whatever. He's like a
probably go
fucking.
Tropic Thunder, Nacho Libre, and then maybe this. And I might even
list.
switch out this for Nacho Libre. That's how much I like Nacho Libre. But
You,
it's that's my top 5 Jack Black films, though.
you know. So you kind of said like that Jack Black, like he's always playing like the same character. If I could recommend you one movie where he actually did switch things up a bit, and it was a really good performance. It was the second time he collaborated with Richard Linklater after School of Rock. It's this movie called Bernie.
I haven't seen that.
You should check it out. Add that to your.
Is it a Bernie Madoff or who is it? What Bernie is it?
It was. I don't know what was it. The guy that like he was like a really nice guy and he killed someone.
Oh, I did see that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's really good in that movie. Like maybe one of the best performances of his career. And Matthew McConaughey is really good in that. So Jay, if you haven't seen that, I know McConaughey's your boy. You should check that one out too.
Yeah, Bernie. Yeah, I have seen that movie. I didn't know that was Linklater actually. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that movie. And then I threw out top 5 superheroes because I love them as well.
Oh, top 5, like okay. I should have done an MCU one, like.
Yeah, well, this is actually all going to be MCU.
Okay, nice.
This is MCU edition. Okay, so Batman would be on this list if it wasn't MCU.
Okay, fine.
So coming in at number 5, Doctor Strange. Coming in at number 5. Ooh.
Whoa.
Number 5, Daredevil. Coming in at number 4, Doctor Strange.
Wait, Daredevil the series?
No, I'm talking about not films. These are just the characters. This is my favorite.
Oh, top 5 characters. Okay.
Top 5 like heroes, like the superheroes that I enjoy. So I'd say number 5, Daredevil. Number 4 that are MCU characters. Number 4, Doctor Strange. Number 3, The Punisher. Number 2, Wolverine, and number 1, Spider-Man. Those are my top 5 favorite superheroes. So
I would probably put Spider-Man as number 1 for me. Number 2 would probably be the Hulk because I love the Hulk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a huge Hulk guy, and we will talk about this later on the Letterboxd thing because a new movie that featured a Hulk character came out, and
yes.
I feel like they I actually want to know we can talk about this later, but I feel like they always kind of did the Hulk kind of dirty in these movies, but we'll save that for that video.
Yeah. Jay, you have any top 5s?
I was thinking of top 5 breakups, but I can't. I couldn't. Don't do that. No, I couldn't figure out a way. No, I couldn't figure out a way.
Put people on blast from his past.
Like, why would you do that? Why would you think that's a good idea?
Listen, I couldn't figure out a way to fucking get out around saying the names.
You can use fake names.
I know, but then knowing me, I'd fuck it up because it'd bring back.
Why don't you do top 5 porn stars? How about that?
I don't have.
Do you want to throw that one in, Nico?
The one I have has got a broken. The one I love is.
I mean, I can pull up a list if you want.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
So I can't really do anything about that. But I was trying to think of weed strains, but I'm pretty similar to one weed strain, Max. I was trying to think.
Oh yeah.
Pretty. You know what? I'm one of those creatures of habit, so I don't tend to drift far away from what I like.
Okay.
You drift far, you drift too far away from what you like, and
you're not like an experimenter, right? Like in that sense.
I'll experiment, but I won't do it for a long period of time. So I've never had anything to a point where, but I can do like 5 fucking quick off the top of my head breakup songs.
Okay.
Someone that I used to know. That's a great jam by Gote, right?
Yeah.
And Cry Me a River. That's the best. That's gotta be the.
That's gotta be number 1.
That's number 1. Yeah.
That has to be number 1.
Anyway, but
according to Bill Simmons, that's the white boys hit him up or whatever. That's what he said. That's what he called it.
Like it's a random one. I mean, you're gonna laugh when I probably say this one, but if I say "Don't Speak" by No Doubt,
that's a good one too. Oh,
I love Don't Speak. Yeah,
that would be number 1.
That's like this is like the most toxic breakup songs that you're talking about right now.
What about Alanis Morissette? That song everyone loves. Isn't that a breakup song? You didn't know, or you ought to know, or some shit. I don't.
You ought to know. I don't know if it's a breakup song.
Is she talking about like an ex-boyfriend or whatever? Or?
Never been revealed.
Yeah. Except on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That one I'll say I'll put at I'll put number 3, but then I always think about the Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want
Oh, that's a
Great
good.
song. Great song. Yeah.
because I like to stick that to them at the end. But then
Is that a breakup song though, or just
there's a song that really I don't know. I used it as a
This
breakup
is the
song one
breakup
time.
playlist. Yeah. This is the
a
The
breakup
best part,
playlist? Yeah.
the best part, it was sort of funny because I've this was like one of those breakup songs I have. This never been revealed like to anybody, and guys, now you guys are gonna hear this from JT live in person. But my brother's wedding song was a heavy duty breakup song for me back in the day for relationship. And my brother's wedding song was the Sade one. What
Mm.
the fuck is the name of the song now? Off the top of my head.
song,
Now I got
Where is this coming in at number 1 on your list right now? Is that
yeah, and it's funny because I didn't know my brother was good. My brother used to make fun about it to me all the time, like because he used to hear me playing it in my fucking room.
right?
Uh, but then he ended up picking it as his wedding song, right?
A breakup song is a wedding song. That's interesting.
By Your Side.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That was his wedding song, right? I mean, it's a great wedding song too, as well, right? Honestly, there's two different. You can have two different perspectives of fucking why you look at.
What about "Earthquake" by Tyler the Creator?
I love
That's
that.
that's a good one. That's a good
You
breakup song.
make my earthquake.
Hey, don't leave. It's my fault. That shit is fire.
I love that song.
Isn't it most of the songs right now are breakups? I feel like are breakup songs on the
Yeah.
new on the Kendrick album too. They're all sad songs, like
The
except for the
GNX or the one before that, the album, the Therapy
fucking
album.
lovey-dovey ones. Well, I mean,
Yeah, he has that one song that I like, "Love," I think it's called, on Damn. That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't want to be with you. That's a good
there,
song. Yeah.
it's because I mean, I'm only saying that because some of the songs that he was singing are singing, they're just like singing. He's actually telling a story, right? So if you
Yeah.
really listen, that's what I like about some music. Like those are just quick off the top of my head. So
There
I
are
can't if
some.
you really put a sick one together, bro. You guys I would blow your mind with some of the songs I could think of. Like I mean, Elton John, Cat Stevens, all those guys have fucking songs that are great for breakup songs, like fucking John Cusack was saying. But they also have the opposite effect too, as well.
Yeah, like jump. Yeah. There are some artists I feel that just make breakup music, like SZA and like Frank Ocean and a lot. Yeah, I don't know. People say that about Taylor Swift, although I don't listen to her music so much. That all her music are about her exes.
She had her whole albums about it, right?
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus's biggest song was the breakup song with her and Liam Hemsworth.
I remember back in the day I was listening to Jennifer Lopez's like debut record, I think her first record, and like there's some songs that are like party songs on there that are really good, but I feel like 90% of the music on that album, and maybe even like more outside of those albums,
My Love Don't Cost a Thing.
Yeah, they're just about like her boyfriend cheating on her and like that, like not working out and stuff, and so it's like
yeah, no, I mean, listen, there's a whole industry based on it.
absolutely.
At the start of this movie, right? So,
Mhm.
all right. So there's some top 5s for you in theme of the film that we kind of put together there. Hope you enjoyed those. Any
I wish
questions?
you guys could hear my breakups, but that
Dude,
DM me.
why
DM me
you?
that information. There you go.
Watch that on our Patreon or some shit, right? Patreon. Put that on a paywall.
Any questions that you guys had about this film? I got a few here. Do you think that they stayed together?
Yeah, I wondered about that. It's like I think there's a chance they might not have, and I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, honestly.
I'm not sure. I honestly, I don't know. I think they may have not. I think it's true. The way they portrayed it at the end is that they possibly weren't like going to be together.
He you know what though? He should have stayed with her because she was like easily his best girlfriend out of all the other ones that he was with. Like she's leagues above everyone else, like in his life. So like that was his best girlfriend.
I think he's been through a lot more with that one too, right?
Yeah.
So,
what do you think, Jay? You think they stayed together?
I think so. I think because remember at that point they started working as a team. I feel like, and when you work as a team, it's a little different.
Well, he did kind of like propose to her, so he kind of did like make that declaration that
Well, that's my follow-up question. If they stayed together, did they get married? Did they have kids?
Yeah, it's also funny that she also was pregnant at one point, and then she had an abortion because he got caught cheating or whatever, and so yeah, I don't know.
And ultimately, I don't think he was ready to marry.
Hopefully, I mean, it's kind of like what kind of a person are you? It's like I don't know if you guys ever saw those before sunrise, before sunset movies with Ethan Hawke and
The Richard Linklater films.
the Richard Linklater.
I haven't
So
seen.
those movies, like there's like three of them. They're a trilogy, but like each ending is kind of like open ended, even like for every one of them. And
Right.
it's like the whole premise of that is like if you're an optimistic person, you believe they got together. If you're a cynical person, they didn't. It's kind of like they're playing on that kind of philosophy of it. Those movies, and so I think you could just kind of just yeah, it's like up to your own interpretation. If like you're into the happy endings, if you're like that, then yeah, they stay together. And I think the same thing could be applied for this movie. Yeah.
I don't think they did. I don't think they end up getting married. I don't think they end up having kids, honestly. I'm not sure. I mean, they definitely leave on a note where you
Yeah.
think that they're coming around, like he's coming around. But ultimately, and this leads to my next question, what do you think became of him and his career path? I think he was going to fall more into the music side of things, and he was going to get
Producing.
swept up by an artist of some sort, honestly. That's my theory about what ended up happening with him, is that she helped him find success with this whole new top 5 records thing, and he ends up taking on a young new artist, and I think he falls for her because ultimately he's way more into music and to artistry than he is into whatever he had going on with this woman, even though they've been through a lot, and I think he ultimately ends up with her, with whoever this other woman is.
I forgot to mention actually one of my favorite quotes of the movie is when he convinces those skater kids to that he's gonna put out their record, and he's like, I'll give you we split the profits 50-50 until I recoup. And then the kid is like, yeah, you're gonna recoup a big fucking Benz is what you're gonna recoup or whatever. So I'm thinking like maybe he becomes like a hotshot producer, probably fucks those kids over, like he probably owns their masters and their publishing, and then maybe he does that bounce for like a bunch of other artists. Or
Yeah,
I'm just playing, bro.
yeah.
But you know what it'd be like? It would be like if they did stay together, maybe because she was a lawyer, right? So maybe she's like the legal department of his record label. That could have been like kind of cool,
right? Yeah, that's kind of where my mind went. If that was going to be a possibility of this movie, if they were, if we saw past what actually ended up happening at the end there.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, like, we already talked about it, was like whether or not this guy was an asshole, and I think we all agree that he was. Right?
Yeah, he's an asshole, but like I think everyone is an asshole to some degree, and everyone is like a good person,
What's that, Jay?
Or like self-absorbed asshole in a sense.
Yeah,
sure.
self-absorbed. I wrote down specifically earlier in my notes. Yeah, absolutely. You guys have any other questions to pose, like, to the group, or no?
No, I can't think of any actually. No.
Not that I can think of, not that way in that sense with the movie.
Okay. And then movie pairings with this. I actually have a really good list for this. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that I think that you can directly relate to this film, but then other things I felt like I just went with based off like vibes alone of this movie. Of course, Say Anything, which is the perfect combo with this movie, because in Say Anything, which I actually just watched for the first time in preparation for this show, I've never actually seen.
Wow.
I've never watched that movie fully. I feel like I've only just seen scenes from it. Like I knew about the boombox scene and everything else, but I've never actually watched the whole thing. Listen, it's fine. I don't have the affinity for it because I didn't grow up with watching that one out of all these other movies, but I did like it. He's good in it, but I also think like it's a perfect combo with this film.
You're right.
Because this is, you see that character Lloyd Dobler in that movie that he plays, and it's before he becomes all jaded. In that movie, it's like he finds this girl, and it's like his first big kind of love type of situation. And then he goes off with her at the end of the movie, and it's almost like this guy grew up now. He followed her to wherever for her job, and he ended up breaking up with her, and then he became this guy working at the record store. That's honestly the trajectory of the character from that movie, from Say Anything to this, makes perfect sense that this could have turned out to be that guy, honestly. And like I think it's the perfect pairing as a result, because this is before he's all optimistic and in love and say anything. And then when he gets these bad breakups in his life and he becomes jaded, this is the character that he becomes in High Fidelity, honestly. Like that's how I looked at it. So I think it's a perfect combination, and it's both two romantic comedies that he starred in, right?
So you know how like Jay said that like this movie is like more geared for like guys or whatever. I think Say Anything might be a movie that's more geared for maybe women, maybe.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's like describing like the perfect boyfriend that every teenage girl kind of wants at that point in their life, like who's sweet and nice and sensitive and kind of like that. So yeah, that's a good pairing for sure.
This is a rare TV pick pairing that I'm going to throw out there, but Louder Milk. Then this, honestly, the character.
I know what that is.
Oh, it's a show. It's a really good show. I think it's on Netflix. That I think
there's only 2 series. I think episodes. There's 2 series. I think.
Yeah. But the character that the guy plays in that show is basically like this character in this movie. He also used to be like a columnist for like Rolling Stone or something like that in that show. He's a music critic essentially.
Oh, okay, nice.
And the character, he's so miserable in that show, and he's an ex-addict. He's like somebody who's in recovery essentially. So I don't know. It reminds me of the character like in this movie a lot as well in ways. Like I know in certain ways it doesn't, but just the attitude of the character, like you know what I mean, like fuck the world at times type of thing. You know, Jay knows what I mean because he's seen the show. So
okay,
I would also suggest things like I mentioned, the aforementioned you know, Kevin Smith movies like Mallrats and
that's a good pick.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick
for this. Films definitely,
and Clerks I think are perfect
for sure.
The movie SLC Punk, because it's got that kind of punk perspective, but then also by the end of that movie the guys end up growing up because they just get out of punk and they mature and they grow older. So I kind of felt like this was like kind of like in that same sense, he has to get his life together at the end of this movie. There's a lot of parallels I felt like between those two movies. Ghost World, which again is just I
have not seen that one.
That's a
comic book, right? That's based on a comic book, right?
It is, but again, it's indicative of this era, and it fits right in with this type of. And again, there's talk about records like Steve Buscemi's in that movie, and he plays this guy that is obsessed with picking up vinyl and stuff like that, like in the movie. So like, there's a lot of themes in that relate back to this film as well. And then finally, Office Space, I think actually works really well with this one because
not bad.
You know, again, and that's also starring the guy from Louder Milk. Actually, I keep forgetting that guy's name, but he's also in Office Space as well. And again, it's just about more about the aspect of people being miserable at their jobs, essentially, like this guy is in this movie. It seems like at times, but ultimately he comes around by the end, right? So those are my movie pairings for this film. How about you guys?
Go ahead, Jay.
I was thinking Almost Famous.
That was my pick too.
That's a good pick. Yes, Cameron Crowe too, right?
Yeah.
Good pick.
And I was thinking that one. I was thinking if you think about the, you know, the kind of, if you want to go around the High Fidelity style things and you want to get, it would be like Serendipity. In that sense, it was John Cusack. That's another John Cusack movie too, as well.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, so that's more of a romantic comedy as opposed to this one. Different style, but if you want to have something to like cleanse the palate, or if you want to have something like a bromance or a bro dude thing, you can always pick Your Boy, Bro, with Paul Rudd. I love you, man.
Yeah,
right.
I love that movie too.
I love that movie.
Like that, you can, and then I, you know, lastly, why not just throw it in with a little bit of School of Rock? Because to be honest, that's
you literally said all my picks now. School of Rock for sure. To me, that's prime Jack Black. Like to me, that's number one.
You know, I thought of that one. I can think of that one because that's when Jack Black was just as quick as he is in this now. You know what I mean? But then he was slowly introducing him character itself, is building his character as well, right?
Yeah. No, I put that one at number one for Jack Black. Like he was just absolutely perfect in that movie, so iconic. And it also has the rock and roll thing, and it also has Joan Cusack in that movie too. Remember, she was like the principal of the school, and so they have like a little thing.
He needs a fucking like a weird voice, like, you know, talking into it. She's got that personality. I like her acting style.
And then yeah, Almost Famous for sure. The whole like rock thing too, and even I would even say Jerry Maguire too, another Cameron Crowe movie. I think they're also kind of touching on the same kind of things, but they're also like optimistic. They're like lighthearted movies. They're not really cruel ones. So
Yeah, Jerry Maguire's like the most that's the whole film's about
yeah.
optimism. Yeah, absolutely.
So for sure, like just like a feel good kind of movie that talks about like this harsh stuff like the midlife crisis shit, but like a positive spin on it. So Cameron Crowe, like this, honestly, this movie feels like a Cameron Crowe movie that he never made. Like for
Yeah.
sure, High Fidelity.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend the movies of his.
Good
Actually, this film we didn't even really get into like the filmmaker of that. I think this is kind of like a movie we don't really acknowledge the director of it.
I don't
ever.
identify this with the director. No.
Yeah, this is the type of the movie where it's like you don't really see any kind of like noticeable style or whatever, I guess, if that's like the right word. But this director actually directed, I didn't know this until I looked it up, one of my actual like favorite comedies ever. So I would throw that in this too, just because it's the same director. It's this movie called Hero with Dustin Hoffman and Gina Davis. Have you guys seen this one? And Andy Garcia. So can I just tell you like the basic plot line of it? So Dustin Hoffman is like this asshole character. Like he's this loudmouth. He's like always like cursing and shit. And he has like a son. His ex-wife doesn't like him at all. But then there's a plane crash that happens in this field or whatever, and he actually goes and saves everyone out of the car, out of the plane accident. But then he and then one of the it's like this nasty disaster where he saves all these people, and then they like want to find out who, they don't know who saved them because it was like dark or whatever, so they want to know who saved all these people so they could give him like a big reward and shit. And it turns out like the one proof that he had to prove that he was the hero was like this boot or whatever that he was wearing that he gives to like a random like random homeless guy. Yeah. And then that homeless guy like I'm basically spoiling the whole movie, but it's so effing funny. Oh my god!
I was just watching the trailer on IMDb when you were talking. Actually, it looks interesting.
Have you guys not ever seen this movie before? It's from the 90s.
Yeah, 92. Never heard of this movie.
It is so funny, bro. Like I highly recommend it. Put that on the watch.
Add it to the watch list. Yeah,
it's so good, bro.
All right, I'll add it. That's interesting. I've never heard about that.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman, Gina Davis, and Andy Garcia. And Dustin is so funny in that.
Let's see here.
Dustin Hoffman is also kind of like a John Cusack, kind of like they have a similar look, kind of.
Hero. Okay, I added it. Oh, I almost added the one from the 2000s, the
Jet Li one. That movie kicks ass too.
Yeah, I do. That one I've seen.
That one is phenomenal.
If you told me that this guy directed that, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, both movies are great movies.
To the watch list. All right, well there you have it. If you guys do want to see what our watch lists are, or like check us out on Letterboxd, see what we've been watching lately, you can check us out at our Letterboxd handle underneath our names here. You can also watch our new show, Late Night Letterboxd, where we talk about what we've been watching, what we're looking forward to watching lately. But let's bring it home here then. Anything else?
Are we talking about like the legacy shit?
I was just about to get that.
Okay.
Yeah, legacy of the film, if anything.
Yeah. I feel like the entire show, How I Met Your Mother, wouldn't exist without this movie. I feel like they totally did this. That's what that show is, with the whole going back to your past and like looking at your ex-girlfriends and stuff. And I even think the main character, the actor who plays him, not only does he kind of look like John Cusack, and I think they mentioned that in the show, but even the character, that Ted Mosby character, is kind of like John Cusack's character in High Fidelity. He's such an asshole. But
no, I hate.
He's even.
Yeah,
but he's like worse.
No,
he's like a worse.
He's worse because he's like a Ross almost from Friends, but like honestly, like I don't like Ted.
No, Ross is way cooler than Ted, bro.
I was gonna say, what's wrong with Ross?
Yeah. No, I like Ross actually.
Ross is annoying. I don't like Ross all that much.
I like David Schwimmer, bro.
I'm more of a Chandler guy.
Yeah, Chandler is a genius, but I like the whininess of Ross. It's really funny. But
I'm Joey.
But like, I actually think there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where he actually does go back and like he gets back together with this girlfriend that he like broke up with on her.
Of course he did. He's a loser.
on her. anyways, just long story short, that whole I feel like this movie is like one of the biggest inspirations for that TV show.
Bro, you should have
Personally.
left that for your hot take. Why are you bringing it in at Legacy? This is
Is
great.
that a hot take? I
I
feel like
think
that's
so.
kind of
I
obvious.
think so that's a hot take, man. That's
You
like
know?
it's the inspiration of a popular show.
Yeah, man,
Hot
for
take. I
sure.
never made that connection. Nice. That's
No,
good.
yeah, for sure. So I feel like that's the legacy, and then also all this like list. These, I think one of my friends called it listicles, like list articles that you see are just flooding the internet, like top 10 this and top 10 that.
That's too close to testicles.
Yeah, listicles. Lick these testicles, right? Like,
I would say that's the legacy of this movie.
yeah, watch Mojo, that whole culture, and
Chris Rock even made a movie called Top 5.
Yeah, that's another movie you could pair with this. That's the top 5 rappers.
Time you've all been waiting, guys. Max, let us know. Grace us with your next pick for the next.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I said 4. I'm gonna edit 2 out. I'm just gonna give you guys 2 to pick from. Okay.
All right.
So one movie I have seen, and the other one I haven't seen. So
wow, that's a bold move. Okay.
So I'm gonna continue on to like JT's thing. So this is kind of like piggyback. This is kind of like I remember one time Nico said, "Whoa, I can't believe you haven't picked Michael Mann yet," right? So it's a Michael Mann film, and I actually rewatched it around the holidays, like around Christmas, and I was like blown away with how much like I always liked this movie, but I was like, "Whoa, this movie is like super kick-ass." I actually think now it might be my number 2 favorite Michael Mann movie behind Heat.
Whoa.
And that's Manhunter. Yeah, like it shot up. Like I saw it and I was just like I just fell in love with it.
I'm intrigued. That might be my pick, but go ahead.
So, Manhunter.
All right.
And then number 2, a movie that I have not seen, and it's timely. So it's like, it's the topic is timely, and that's and it's a movie I always wanted to see it, but just never got around to it. And that's Steven Spielberg's AI, Artificial Intelligence.
Oh, I'd watch that.
Yeah. Again. Have either of you guys seen that AI? Yeah. Both of you have seen AI?
When I was younger, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is a movie that I've never seen, but from what I hear, a lot of people, when it came out, it had a very like lukewarm sort of response. And now people have like reevaluated it as one of Spielberg's best.
You know, the story behind that is that Kubrick
handed it over to him. Yeah.
Before he died.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's why it's an interesting movie, and it's and
then also the AI is such a topic nowadays with all the rise of AI and shit. So
that's tough. Man.
I feel like Julie would probably, because I know she's into the AI stuff too, she would probably lean towards that.
Honestly, like I kind of want to go with Manhunter because I recently just watched that for the first time like a year or 2 ago myself. Nice. I really liked that movie and I do want to revisit it, but AI, I have no recollection of AI at all, so I don't know.
When I saw that movie in December, I was like, okay, this has to be my next pick. But then like now it's February, and so I'd still love to do that one, but it's just like I guess the intensity for it has kind of waned just because as time has passed, like other movies have sort of entered the.
Yeah.
And I had two more suggestions, but I'm not going to mention them. Fuck it.
Yeah, so, Manhunter is the Silence of the Lambs, Jay, before Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, exactly.
1986. I'm seeing the right one, right?
It's before the other Hannibal Lecter.
It's the first book in the story.
Yes, it
was originally called Red Dragon, and then they did a remake of that movie, and it was called Red Dragon.
Yeah, your boy from Rush Hour.
I think they said we could. I guess if we end up doing that movie, I'll talk about it more. But I think they said that the reason they called it Manhunter and not Red Dragon is because they didn't want people to think it was like a kung fu movie.
Right.
They didn't want the word dragon in there, so they called it Manhunter.
Go ahead, Jay. What do you want? Which one?
Well, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm just trying to see if this is the right one. I'm looking at it. Yeah, it looks like a Hannibal Lecter style thing.
We got to vote. No,
so like Hannibal Lecter or like AI? Like what do you lean towards?
I don't know. I like them both, man.
Nico, should we do the flipping the coin or the dice or whatever?
I haven't watched the Manhunter one, so I mean, I have watched the AI one. No, I haven't never watched.
Should we do Manhunter and then save AI for? I guess like a later time? Because Nico wants to do Manhunter and you don't really care, so maybe Manhunter makes more sense. Right?
I'm up in the air. Like, I mean, I'm up in the air. I could watch them both. To be honest with you, I just looked at what it was, the preview of the Manhunter one there quickly.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I can. Now that you said Hannibal Lecter thing, that's the only thing that kind of.
All right, so let's do Manhunter then. Fuck it, let's do that one.
All right,
Manhunter is the next one.
Okay, yeah, perfect. All right, so Manhunter by Michael Mann.
I'm gonna be excited to talk about that one.
I can always stare at somebody in a white room with fucking chains, and you know what I mean? In a jail cell, yeah, I can always. It's not a problem.
It's a very artsy film. It's
and that's what I liked about it, for real.
It's very artsy version of Silence of the Lambs.
I think it's actually better than Silence of the Lambs, honestly. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that's gonna be our next pick, everybody. So we'll catch you on the next one, and thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe, and yes, thanks again. See you, everyone.
Peace out.
Shattered dreams, worthless years. Here am I encased inside a hollow shell. Life began, then was done. Now I stare into a cold and empty well. The many sounds that meet our ears, the sights our eyes behold, will open up our merging hearts and feed our empty souls. I believe when I fall in love.